Chapter 833. I didn't expect the Emperor of Heaven to be in the Celestial Appeasement Department. God Maha's current appearance was that of a middle-aged man with a black beard and a dignified appearance. He looked just like a governor in the bureaucracy. No one would have guessed that he was the king of the ancient gods, the former lord of the devil domain. His gaze flickered upon hearing Heavenly King Jin's words, but he didn't ask any further. I have to admit that the Celestial Appeasement Department is powerful. I've been infiltrating the department and working under a different name these days. I can feel that their ideology is very bewitching, so we can't underestimate them. Heavenly Monarch Jin's tone changed. I can rely on my means to hide now, but once Gu Chernsha becomes a heavenly venerable, it will be hard for me to hide, and he will definitely find out. However, it's almost impossible for him to become a heavenly venerable. Still, we should be careful. God Maha, you can't spread the news that the Emperor of Heaven's reincarnation is in the Celestial Appeasement Department. I understand. God Maha nodded. He wasn't angry. He was very shrewd, and no one knew what he was thinking in the depths of his heart. The Great Spirit God, I know you're good at scheming and ambitious. Heavenly King Jin said to the Great Spirit God. Also, those who work with you will be killed by you. But let me tell you now, the Emperor of Heaven's rebirth and the Celestial Court's establishment are irresistible trends. If you have second thoughts, you'll live a life worse than death in the future. If you work for the Celestial Court wholeheartedly, you'll naturally be able to get rid of your sins and enjoy the beautiful days ahead. This subordinate understands. The Great Spirit God's expression immediately turned serious. He actually called himself a subordinate, which was a bit subservient compared to God Maha. God Maha addressed himself as I in front of an ordinary youth like Heavenly King Jin. It was clear that he didn't consider himself a subordinate. This series of details indicated a subtle relationship. Lord Heavenly King of Jin, I wonder where Heavenly King Chaos, Heavenly King Daluo, Heavenly King Donghua, and Heavenly King Wisdom are? Now that the gods have gathered, we've become a powerful force, but if we want to support the Emperor of Heaven, it's still not enough. Old Man Desolation spoke up. I also heard that the Lord of the Four Wilds has appeared. He's actually teaming up with Patriarch Heaven and Earth and the others to form some sort of huge alliance. Should we subdue this alliance? Otherwise, if we fight to the death with the Tranquil Immortal Department, they will come out and take advantage of us. If that happens, I'm afraid we'll also suffer heavy losses. Indeed, this matter needs to be resolved as soon as possible. Since you've brought it up, you'll be the messenger to negotiate with Ancestor Heaven and Earth's alliance. Ask them to submit to me, and if they don't, I'll kill them with the force of a thunderbolt. Heavenly King Jin, the ordinary-looking youth, sneered. I already know the situation of this alliance. Everyone has their own agenda. Immortal Master Wan is relying on the recognition of the immortal world's origin to become the future master of the immortal world. Unfortunately, in the future, the master of the immortal world will be someone else, not him. Everything he's done is futile. After a while, the essence of the immortal world won't care for him anymore. When that time comes, he'll be like a tiger without claws and fangs. He won't be a threat. That said, he's a heaven longevity realm primal chaos palea creature. If he's willing to submit to me as a watchdog, and offer sacrifices in faith, I'll keep him safe. As for the immortal lord, she has the systems of the ancient civilization, which is a priceless treasure. Back in the day, the ancient civilization had wanted to rebel and replace the Tao of Heaven. Although it was wishful thinking, the systems of the one God were truly powerful. Although the immortal Lord couldn't unleash even 1/10,000th of its power, if Gu Chernsha got his hands on it, he would be in danger of toppling the cosmos. As for the others, that's not important. The Lord of the Four Wilds will eventually be influenced by the essence, and will definitely side with the heavenly court. I'll go right now, Yang Qi said. Old Man Wilds knew that this was the time to perform a great service for the heavenly court, and he couldn't hesitate. Everything he did now was to pave the way for the future. The more he did now, the more credit he would receive in the future, and the greater his accomplishments would be. The heavenly court wouldn't bury his contributions. Inside, Old Man Wilds was thinking, these people are really short-sighted. They all have ulterior motives. If I'm loyal to the heavenly court, I'll definitely succeed. The age of chaos is coming to an end, and it's time to seize the opportunity to make a contribution. If I'm half-hearted, I won't get any benefits in the future, and I'll die a horrible death. The heavenly court is very clear about rewards and punishments, and they won't tolerate a grain of sand in their eyes. As he was thinking, Old Man Wilds glanced at him with a sneer. The Great Spirit God thinks he's smart, but he's not trusted by Heavenly King Gene anymore. That said, no organization would trust a two-faced traitor like him. I'm going to get rid of him as soon as he's done with his grinding. Good. Heavenly King Gene was very pleased with Old Man Wilds. As expected of someone born in the Wilds Dragon Gate. I'm in charge of the Wilds Dragon Gate, and you're its son, which means you're also my son. As long as you convince those people, you'll be rewarded greatly in the future. Yes, sir. Old Man Wilds bowed a few times, then sent some sacrificial power into the core of the Wilds Dragon Gate. Everyone, let's start the sacrificial ceremony. The true gods of the heavenly King Field said, since you've pledged your allegiance to the heavenly court, show your sincerity. Send the sacrificial power into the Wilds Dragon Gate. Not only will you brand your loyalty, but you'll also be contributing to the heavenly court. I'm now a member of the heavenly court. I'll protect the Emperor, Heaven Emperor, even if I have to die 1,000 times. At that moment, the Thunder God expressed his stance. He continuously offered sacrifices, and a huge wave of pure sacrificial power rushed into the core of the Wilds Dragon Gate, nourishing it greatly. After that, the Water God, the Dragon God, the Sea God, and the other mountain and river gods also started offering sacrifices. With this, the interior of the Wilds Dragon Gate immediately started operating violently. A huge roar was heard, and the heavenly King Gene instantly obtained great benefits. Waves of life and death energy were born in the depths of the Wilds Dragon Gate. So many true gods started offering sacrifices. It was a scene that had never been seen before in history. This time, the heavenly King Gene obtained great benefits. The great burning heavenly king, Xiao Yan, was a little jealous. However, he had no choice. He was the last of the 9 heavenly kings, and he was the weakest. Moreover, he hadn't obtained the treasure that made him famous. In the future heavenly court, the great burning heavenly king, Xiao Yan, would be the heavenly king who controlled the cleansing flame of the heaven realm. However, the cleansing flame of the heaven realm hadn't appeared yet. Xiao Yan didn't know what had happened. Even he couldn't sense where the treasure was. This wasn't normal. God Maha and the chaotic demon Ape God hesitated for a moment, but they also joined the sacrificial ceremony. They had no choice but to lower their heads. Even if they had once dominated the world, they still weren't strong enough to deal with a heavenly king. Under the worship of nearly 3,000 true gods, the Wilds Dragon Gate completely disappeared. No one could predict or capture it. The heavenly King Jin's power was gradually increasing. Chaos Old Man came out and landed on the eastern wasteland. Suddenly, his body shook. He felt a wave of energy breaking through the air and pouring into his body. Within his body, a trace of the boundless universe force was vaguely born. Ha 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 ha, the Wilds Dragon Gate is my mother. Now that it has received the worship of the 3,000 true gods, it has completely recovered its strength and grown tremendously. This way, my strength will rise along with the tide, and it will lay the foundation for me to break through to the heavenly Yuan realm in the future. Among so many people, I'm equivalent to the heavenly King Jin's son. He trusts me the most. Chaos Old Man was wild with joy. Congratulations, congratulations! Just as Chaos Old Man was about to complete his mission and convince those from the Black Heaven Earth sect, a voice was heard. Who is it? Chaos Old Man was shocked. He turned his head and found another person beside him. This person had the appearance of a young man. He looked very delicate, but there was an endless majesty in his actions. He was many times more dignified than the heavenly King Jin. Gu! Chaos Old Man spat out a few words with great difficulty. Gu Chensha. That's right, this delicate young man was Gu Chensha. Even though Chaos Old Man had already touched the heavenly Yuan realm, Chensha was still trembling. A huge fear shrouded him. You? How did you find me? The heavenly King Jin collected many sealed true gods. If I didn't know about such a big matter, I would have been waiting for death. Gu Chensha smiled. Chaos Old Man, you're a miracle. You've been with the great spirit god for so long, but you haven't been devoured by him. Now you've boarded a pirate ship. You think the heavenly court will be the future ruler. That's the wrong choice. Gu Chensha, what do you want? Chaos Old Man knew he couldn't deal with the aftermath. He felt despair when facing Gu Chensha. He used a secret technique to communicate with the heavenly King Jin, but it was useless. He couldn't communicate with the heavenly King Jin at all. It was obvious that Gu Chensha had cut off all communication, leaving him alone and helpless. Go! Chaos Old Man soared into the sky and tried to leave, but he found that he couldn't move at all. All methods were childish and laughable in front of Gu Chensha. Hold down for 3 seconds to copy. Chapter 834. You can actually break through Heavenly Monarch Jin's heaven reversing technique and divine my whereabouts? Sounds of heaven. Old Man Primeval's mind raced as he tried to think of a way to make a last stand. If I can't even guess Heavenly Monarch Jin's heaven reversing technique, how can I compete with Emperor Heaven of Heaven? I might as well kill myself. Heavenly Monarch Jin has the primeval dragon gate and has some tricks up his sleeve, but he still has Heavenly Monarch Wisdom, Heavenly Monarch Donghua, Heavenly Monarch Absolute, and Heavenly Monarch Primal Chaos. Let's not talk about that. The Master of the Sun and Moon is at a disadvantage against me. Gu Chensha seemed to have seen through Old Man Primeval's thoughts. Stop struggling. Submit to me and change the ritual, and I can spare your life. After all, someone like you has comprehended the great thousand force of heaven origin. The power you obtain from the ritual will be very beneficial to me. Gu Chensha's Celestial Calmness Bureau only had 4 celestial sovereigns. None of them were at the Heaven Longevity Realm. Xing Qiongshi was at the Heaven Longevity Realm, but after refining the Divine Land Gourd, his consciousness was completely sealed and he couldn't use the ritual. If Old Man Primeval was captured and reformed, the power of the ritual would be unimaginable with his peak Heaven Longevity Realm cultivation. In Gu Chensha's eyes, he was like a hen laying golden eggs. He had to be captured. Right now, Gu Chensha was getting stronger and stronger because the Divine Land Gourd had absorbed a total of 20 endless treasures. It was extremely terrifying. With every additional endless treasure, its power would increase exponentially. With 20 endless treasures gathered, its power had already surpassed the desolate dragon sect. There were still 16 endless treasures outside. Gu Chensha was determined to collect them all. He sent Dou Yu to infiltrate the World Ancestor Alliance to subdue the Endless Heart. Once it was subdued, he would be able to find the whereabouts of the other endless treasures. As for Gu Tanjian and Gu Changjian's Infinity Sword and Infinity Saber, Gu Chensha had a plan to deal with them. The two couldn't escape his grasp. Gu Chensha, you are delusional. Right at this moment, Old Man Desolation exploded. With a move of his body, his entire body transformed into millions of dragons that fled in all directions. In the center of these dragons, a bolt of divine lightning appeared. This divine lightning was similar to the desolate thousand dragon lightning, but its might was far inferior to the desolate dragon sex, desolate thousand dragon lightning. Of course, this was Old Man Desolation's strongest move. You want to show off such insignificant skills before me? Do you know that if I were to use the primal desolate universe sacred lightning now, even the primal desolate dragon sect would be inferior to me? A smile appeared on Gu Chencha's face, and the divine land gourd appeared above his head. The vortex of the divine land gourd swept out slightly, and the lightning was immediately sucked into the gourd. Then, even the billions of dragons formed by Old Man Desolation were sucked into the gourd. This gourd could almost swallow the heavens. How can you be so strong? Old Man Desolation felt as if the entire world had been sucked into the gourd, and he himself had fallen into the divine land gourd. His body returned to its origin, and he saw the true divine land, the perfect divine land. Gu Chensha had created a brand new divine land within the divine land gourd, and he had named it the true divine land, or the ideal divine land, the perfect divine land. Now, Old Man Desolation had been sucked into the divine land gourd, and he had landed at the center of the true divine land, in the imperial palace at the center of the Sin province. The Sin province of the true divine land was where the capital city was, and there was no demonic domain. Moreover, the center of the true divine land was not called the Sin province, but the central province by Gu Chensha. This was the true center of the myriad worlds, the center of the heavenly realm, and the center of time and space. At this moment, Old Man Desolation landed in the imperial palace. He raised his head and saw a huge throne at the top of the palace. The aura coming from it was close to the heavenly Tao, and it was almost invincible. Sitting on the throne was Gu Chensha. You! Old Man Desolation was shocked. You secretly forged the Emperor of Heaven throne? You want to be Emperor of Heaven yourself. Aren't you afraid of retribution for your perverse actions? How laughable! Kings, marquises, generals, and ministers all have guts. The Emperor of Heaven is the same. The Emperor of Heaven throne belongs to the virtuous, and whoever can lead all living beings to a better place will be Emperor of Heaven. I've long since seen through the future heavenly court. To be honest, the structure of the future heavenly court is just to enslave all living beings, and there's nothing new about it. Gu Chensha looked down at Old Man Desolation from high above, and his eyes flickered. Kneel. Arg! Old Man Desolation let out a world-shaking roar, but it was useless. He could not use any magic, and he knelt down stiffly. Gu Chensha, I'm an ancient expert who has dominated for who knows how many tens of thousands of years. If you want to kill me, just kill me. Why must you humiliate me like this? Old Man Desolation roared. I'll ask you again, do you submit or not? Gu Chensha asked again. Submit to me, offer sacrifices to me, work for me, erase your sins, and become a member of the calming immortal department. If you're not willing, I don't have so many things to tangle with you. I'll just refine you and turn you into my puppet. Your pet Northchen has already been refined by me into the King of Common Life. I'll refine you into the Emperor of Common Life, and I can still use you. I'd rather die than submit, Old Man Desolation said with a cold smile. Gu Chensha, do you think I'm the great spirit god? Treacherous double-dealing. Shameless. When have I ever submitted to anyone? I couldn't tell, but you have a backbone. Gu Chensha looked at Old Man Desolation coldly. Since that's the case, don't blame me for being cruel. Do you really think I can't do anything to you? It doesn't matter if you refine me into some Emperor of Common Life. The sacrificial power of the new Emperor of Common Life is far inferior to mine. After all, it has lost some spirituality. If you had directly subdued the North Chin Emperor back then, your sacrificial power would definitely be much higher than the King of Common Life. Old Man Desolation said. It seems like you think you've submitted to the Gene Sect Heavenly King? Can you live forever? You've placed your hopes on the future heavenly court. Do you think that even if you die now, You'll still be loyal to the heavenly court? That you'll definitely achieve great things in the future? Gu Chunsha could practically see through Old Man Desolation's thoughts. The reason why he was so fearless and stubborn was because he had made up his mind. Humph! The Great Desolation Old Man snorted coldly. Gu Chunsha, use whatever abilities you have. Right now, I don't care if you kill me or cut me up. Even if you turn my bones to dust, I don't care. I want to see what new tricks you can come up with to make me submit completely. That's good. The hearts of all living beings are stubborn, but I have the determination to gather all living beings together to create an ideal world. If I can't subdue you, then it will be considered a failure. Gu Chunsha said, You are the will that was born from the primordial dragon sect. Once I subdue you, I can find the weakness of the primordial dragon sect and grab this thread of karma to suppress the Jin sect heavenly king. While Gu Chunsha was speaking, 360 more Common People's generals appeared in the hall. The current Common People's generals were all at Saint Realm, which meant that they had reached the Tao Realm Truth Saint Heart level. Only with such strong cultivation could they manage so many things in the Godland, causing the Godland and the giant Yonko to become more and more stable. The Common People's generals were created by Gu Chunsha, and they broke free from the fate of being puppet. They had their own lives and were now true people. Moreover, they had many things that experts couldn't compare to. Each Common People's commander was just and strict. They were loved by the people, and as time went on, they accumulated huge support and hearts of the people. Why did you summon these Common People's generals? Do you think that they can deal with me? Old Man Desolation said in disdain. Look, these great generals of the common people govern the world, and even if it's a small dispute among the people, the great generals of the common people can handle it perfectly, so they are the hearts of the people. Logically speaking, the hearts of the people on them can long condense into the great position of true God. Gu Chunsha didn't care about what Old Man Desolation said and muttered to himself, Let me show you how I can fight with the Emperor of Heaven. God position, form. On the bodies of the 360 Common People's generals, there was a light and energy formed from the hearts of the people. These things were really precious and even contained supreme secret. In the past, if an official had 1,000th of these people's hearts, after he died, his soul wouldn't be destroyed and he would become a small god. Of course, this small god wouldn't be conferred a title by the emperor, but he would be protected by the imperial court and would have some luck. And now, any one of the 360 great marshals of common people, the reputation and hearts of the people they obtained far surpassed any of the great and bold emperors in history, even the ancient heavenly sons. Gu Chunsha grabbed onto Old Man Desolation and used him as motivation to forcefully activate and complete the strongest change. What are you doing? Old Man Desolation panicked. You actually want to create a true God position out of thin air? You're truly going against the heavens. You've already gone mad, you can't succeed. The true God position requires the Emperor of Heaven to gather faith and use the Emperor's Qi to enter the Heaven Sacrifice Talisman and offer it to the Heavenly Tao. Only then will the Heavenly Tao form a true God position. If you do this now, not only will you incur endless sin, it will also be impossible for you to form a true God position. Just what are you thinking? Old Man Desolation felt a sense of danger. Don't forget, I have half of the Heaven Sacrifice Talisman. I just didn't use it. Of course, I won't use the Yonko's Emperor's Qi, which is the nation's fate, to sacrifice it to the Heavenly Tao. However, I have the Heaven Stealing Technique. Through the Heaven Sacrifice Talisman, I can steal the Heavenly Tao's power to form a true God position for my 360 Common People's generals. You're a sinner who has to bear the wrath of the Heavenly Tao. To the Heavenly Tao you're stealing. Think about the consequences, Gu Chunsha said. Chapter 835. Gu Chunsha can actually create a deity seat. In the eyes of an antique like the Great Desolation Patriarch, this was absolutely inconceivable. At the very least, this was the power of the heavenly Daos, the Emperor of Heaven. Even if experts were to appear in large numbers, the Great Desolation Old Man could still be considered an absolute expert. Other than a few people who came from the future heavenly court, he stood at the peak of this world. Therefore, his vision and cultivation were definitely not devalued. Currently, the number one expert in the universe was Gu Chunsha, Gu Tiansha. In second place were the heavenly kings and the Lord of the Four Desolate. Of course, now that Jing Qiu and Gu Huo were heavenly kings, as well as the Lord of the Desolate Desert and the Lord of the Desolate Sea, their strength naturally surpassed that of the prehistoric Old Man. The third tier was the primeval Old Man, Wan Senshi, the three Empyreans, the Great Spirit God, the Immortal Lord, and other heavenly longevity realm old-timers. The fourth tier consisted of some Empyreans. As for those below the Empyrean level, as the Great Tribulation approached, there would be more and more of them. The Great Desolation Old Man had condensed a strand of the Great Chiliocosm in his body. In the future, it was very likely that he would break through to the Heaven Origin realm, which would allow him to rise to the second tier. You are actually so vicious. Old Man Desolation's face twisted. He knew that what Gu Chunsha said was true. Even if the heavenly court was established in the future, he would not benefit at all. Instead, he would be a sinner. It was a dead end either way, and it was the kind of death where there was no hope at all. Your only way out now is to rely on me, worship my Tao, and abandon your dreams of becoming a heavenly king of Jin, Gu Chunsha said. Only then will you have a chance of survival. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. After saying that, Gu Chunsha grabbed again. Instantly, the wind and clouds surged. Endless power was extracted from the depths of the divine land gourd. The deity positions of the 360 saint-level commanders of common people became clearer and clearer. Of course, the waves of sins and tribulations also condensed into physical form. Originally, they should have been directed at Gu Chunsha and the 360 saint-level great marshals of common people. But now, these tribulations and sins were gathered above Elder Primordial Chaos's head, as if they would descend at any moment. I'm willing to submit. In the blink of an eye, Old Man Desolation continued to calculate. Finally, he sighed and said, I am willing to submit to immortal tranquility and change my sacrifice. However, I have already offered sacrifices to the raging desolate dragon sect. If I offer sacrifices to the calming immortal department, the raging desolate dragon sect and the school Jin heavenly king will immediately appear. Don't worry, they won. If I can't do the king will. Don't talk nonsense. Let's worship first. Gu Chunsha sneered. Yes. At this moment, the Great Desolation Old Man had no other choice. He could only prostrate himself, change his mind, and start offering sacrifices to Gu Chunsha. Buzz, another wave of sacrificial energy erupted from his body. This was the power of a peak heaven longevity realm old-timer, a power that could change the heavens and change the earth. Even when the ancient Son of Heaven was at his peak, there weren't any heavenly longevity realm old fogies that submitted to him. Not to mention the heavenly longevity realm, there weren't even any Empyreans. Therefore, this sacrificial power was extremely beneficial to Gu Chunsha. Rumble. The sacrificial power was like a heavenly waterfall, surging endlessly. After landing on Gu Chunsha's body, it suddenly changed, sucking in and out, and then drilling into the depths of the void. The sacrificial power has returned to the great desolate dragon gate. Old Man Desolation was shocked. But you did something to the sacrificial power. That's right. Gu Chunsha snapped his fingers. You offered sacrifices to me. After I used a supreme technique to condense the sacrificial power, I seized the opportunity and sent it into the great desolate dragon gate. You didn't betray me at all. Also, after I condensed the sacrificial power, I hid it in the depths of the great desolate Dragon Gate. Not only can I find the location of the great desolate Dragon Gate, but I can also use it to slowly infiltrate the great desolate Dragon Gate. So that's your plan. Old Man Desolation's face was full of bitterness. If you take the great desolate Dragon Gate, you'll become even more powerful, and I'll become a true enemy of the heavenly court. Enemy, huh? Gu Chernsha flicked his fingers again, and the tribulation floating above Old Man Desolation's head began to change. It turned into multicolored light and entered Old Man Desolation's body. Suddenly, Old Man Desolation's universe power increased by a bit, and his cultivation increased again. He was getting closer and closer to the heaven origin realm. I can turn the tribulations of the heavenly Tao into merit. You should already know that. Back in the depths of the great desolate Dragon Gate, I also turned the sins of the great desolation Dragon Gate into merit. Now that you've pledged allegiance to me and started offering sacrifices, I naturally have to give you some benefit. Since you've offered sacrifices to me and turned the sins of the heavenly Tao into merit, there's no turning back. I'm sure you know that. Now I'll give you a mission. Go to the Black Heaven-Earth Sex Alliance and secretly pledge allegiance to someone. That's how you'll offer sacrifices to her, said Gu Chernsha. Who? Old Man Desolation didn't know what kind of huge plan Gu Chernsha was planning. Wu Dankong. Gu Chensha's eyes sharpened. This woman has the heavenly sacrifice decree. In the future heavenly court, she'll be an extremely powerful character. If my guess is correct, she should be an important concubine under the Emperor Heaven of the future heavenly court. She should be awakening some kind of ability now. Since that's the case, I'll just follow your orders. Old Man Desolation grew more and more afraid of Gu Chernsha. He knew that if he didn't listen to Gu Chensha's orders, he would be unable to live or die. He would have to endure the most unbearable pain, and he would never be able to escape. Go. With a wave of his hand, Gu Chernsha sent Old Man Desolation out of the Divine Land Gourd. In the next moment, Old Man Desolation arrived in the eastern wasteland. His body shivered. He didn't have any thoughts of betrayal. If betrayal was so easy, the calming immortal department wouldn't have become the heavenly court's greatest enemy. Old Man Desolation understood that as long as he betrayed Qin Wentian, he would die without a burial. To think that I've become a chess piece. I was born from the Dragon Gate of the Desolation era and roamed the ancient times. Even the ancestor of all demons, the North Star Emperor, was my pet. But now I'm in such a miserable state. I have no choice. Could it be that the heavenly mandate isn't on my side? Old Man Desolation's heart was filled with sorrow. But he knew that it was useless. Only by completing the mission given to him by Gu Chernsha could he live. Within the Black Heaven and Earth Gate, Wu Dankong occupied a palace for herself. She was bitterly cultivating. Her current cultivation realm was also at the peak of the Sage realm. She wanted to break through to the heavenly sovereign realm, but she couldn't. Since ancient times, the one who holds the heavenly sacrifice decree is the Son of Heaven. The Son of Heaven is at the peak of the Sage realm. No heavenly sovereign has ever obtained the heavenly sacrifice decree. If I become a heavenly sovereign, I'll be able to control the decree and obtain great benefits. Wu Dankong bitterly cultivated. Congratulations, concubine Ming. You're about to cultivate to the heavenly sovereign realm. A voice rang out. Who? Wu Dankong's eyes turned in the direction of the voice, and he saw a shadow appear. It was none other than Old Man Desolation. You? How did you get in? The mystical gate of heaven and earth is sealed with layers of restrictive spells. How could you sneak in? Wu Dankong frowned. Although Old Man Desolation was an ancient hegemon, Wu Dankong had the heavenly sacrifice decree and the boundless heart. She wasn't afraid of him at all. The School Gene Heavenly King has already appeared and gained control of the Your Desolate Dragon sect. I'm now his subordinate. He has already unsealed all the gods sealed by the heavenly talisman Great Emperor and brought them into your desolate dragon sect. I'm here today to send my regards to Concubine Ming on behalf of the School Gene Heavenly King. Old Man Desolation spoke according to Gu Chencha's intentions. The School Gene Heavenly King has appeared, and he even took in a sealed true god as his subordinate. Wu Dangkong was shocked. After that, her expression turned frosty. Don't call me Concubine Ming. In Wu Dangkong's eyes, Concubine Ming was an extremely humiliating title. She was forcibly brought into the harem by the heavenly talisman Great Emperor. Originally, she wanted to make a name for herself. Unfortunately, she encountered the calming Immortal Bureau and was suppressed to the point where she couldn't even speak. Now, her reputation among the common people was extremely bad. I'm not calling you Concubine Ming of the Yonko, but the future Concubine Ming of the Heavenly Court, the concubine of the Emperor Heaven of Heaven. Old Man Desolation calmly said, otherwise, why would the heavenly sacrifice decree fall into your hands? And why would the heavenly talisman Great Emperor Gu Taxian force you to enter the harem? Could it be that the concubine still doesn't understand her position? What? Wu Dangkong abruptly stood up. What did you say? Say it again. The concubine has already heard it clearly. Why do I have to say it again? Old Man Desolation stood respectfully. Wu Dangkong was silent for a long time. After thinking for a long time, she said, Old Man Desolation, what do you want to do? I already understand my own identity. Naturally, I want to join the concubine and wait for the birth of the Emperor Heaven of Heaven. He will establish the future heavenly court and reorganize the order of the myriad world. In the future, the concubine will definitely hold great power and glory. Following the concubine is better than following the School Gene Heavenly King. Old Man Desolation said, What do you think, concubine? Old Man Desolation, you're in the heavenly longevity realm. If I don't have you, I'll have the power of the great Kiliacosm brewing in my body. If you join me, I'll be like a tiger with wings. But how can I trust you? Unless... Wu Dangkong wasn't a fool. She definitely couldn't trust Old Man Desolation. Unless I offer sacrifices to the concubine. Old Man Desolation said, the heavenly sacrificial talisman in the Empress's hands is a good thing, but it's a pity that you need to control a huge amount of sacrificial power to activate its destructive power. Furthermore, the Empress doesn't have her own empire yet, so she can't unleash the talisman's greatest power. This site recommends pictures and videos of beautiful legs in stockings, youthful cheeks, and plump buttocks online. Quickly follow the official WeChat account. Mainvto1, long press for 3 seconds to copy, to watch. Chapter 836. That's right. I don't have my own empire, so I can't use the power of the sacrifice. However, there's one more thing you need to understand. The sacrificial power required for this heavenly sacrifice decree is extremely pure. Even if I control a greater 1,000 realms, such as the Xianhuang greater 1,000 realms, control the living beings within, and then sacrifice them, it won't be of much use. The purity won't be enough. Only by controlling the divine central continent will I be able to fully activate the heavenly sacrifice decree and activate its wondrous art. It wasn't that Wu Dangkong didn't want to establish an empire. Given her current cultivation base and foundation, she could occupy a place in the celestial realms. For example, she could incinerate the lands of the 7 continents, gather humans, and educate them. Slowly but surely, she would gain immense faith, just like Jing Qiu had done with the Holy Sama Empire in the desolate waste. However, she didn't have the patience or the time to do so. Managing an empire and starting it from scratch was something that could not be done without hundreds or even thousands of years. Add to that the fact that the Central Divine Prefecture was the most valuable land, the 4 wilderlands, and she had to search for another continent to establish a new empire and a new sacrificial altar. The people of the central divine prefecture were the most valuable, followed by the four wilderlands. Because the four wilderlands were so close to the central divine prefecture, the people of the divine prefecture had lived there since ancient times. As a result, the blood of the divine prefecture flowed through the people of the four wilderlands. Because of that, the people of the four wilderlands had the blood of the divine prefecture in their veins. Because of that, when the people of the four wilderlands were gathered together to establish an empire, the power of the sacrificial offerings would be immense, second only to the divine prefecture. That was why the profound sect of the immortal Tao resided in the eastern wilderlands. I know that other than that, there's another reason why the goddess is unable to unleash the full power of the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman. That's because the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman Emperor has altered something in the Heaven Sacrificial Talisman, distorting its origin. Old Man Desolate said, "Do you have a way to restore it?" Wu Dongkong's eyes flashed. It wasn't a secret that there was something wrong with the decree, and many of the old-timers knew about it. If it weren't for the fact that there were no problems, she would have long since formed her own faction. Why would she need to join this alliance? To scheme and scheme against the old-timers? By relying on the edict, he could suppress destiny and even subjugate some of the old-timers. It's actually very simple. As long as you awaken your essence and become the Emperor of Heaven's bright concubine, you'll be able to sense where the Emperor of Heaven is. Then, through your prayers, you'll be able to borrow the power of the Emperor of Heaven to remove the seal. In addition, as long as the Empress awakens her source, her aptitude will definitely not be below that of a heavenly king. She will be able to stand on equal footing with a heavenly king. In the future, as the imperial harem of the Emperor of Heaven, the Empress will hold a lot of authority and will be deeply trusted by the Emperor of Heaven, said the desolate old man. How do I awaken the source? Wu Dongkong's heart surged. She knew that her chance was right in front of her. It's still the power of sacrifice. Desolate old man said, the Gate Gene Heavenly King controls the primeval Dragon Gate and has nearly 3,000 true gods sacrifice. That's a huge power. Actually, the Empress can work with the Gate Gene Heavenly King and borrow the power of the 3,000 true gods sacrifice to instantly break through some kind of limit and awaken the Emperor of Heaven's bright concubine's essence. After all this talk, you're here to persuade me, not to rely on me. Wu Dongkong's expression turned cold. I'm afraid that the Gate Gene Heavenly King has ulterior motives. He wants to obtain my edict so that he can take another step forward. We're in a chaotic world with one variable after another. Even those who are loyal to the future heavenly court are just watching the changes unfold. If the Emperor of Heaven were to come out, they might not be completely convinced. They might even want to replace him. If Gu Taxian didn't exist, they would still be obedient. But now, it's hard to say how loyal they are. Wu Dongkong was not a fool. How could she believe desolate old man's words? I can see that too. That's why I wholeheartedly pledged my allegiance to you. In the future, the Gate Gene Heavenly King of the Heavenly Court will be a high-ranking official, but you are still the closest to the Celestial Dharch. To be honest, if the Celestial Dharch is unhappy, he can promote a new Heavenly King at any time to take charge of the Dragon Gate of the Untainted Land. He will also be a Gate Gene Heavenly King. It's not impossible for the old Gate Gene Heavenly King to be stripped of his origin and banished to the mortal world. You've said so much, but I still don't see your sincerity. Wu Dongkong remained calm. She would not release the eagle until she saw the rabbit. Your subordinate greets the Empress. Desolate old man actually prostrated in front of Wu Dongkong. In the blink of an eye, an enormous stream of sacrificial power shot up into the sky and converged on Wu Dongkong. Wu Dongkong's face lit up with delight. A glowing image appeared around her, which wrapped around the sacrificial power, then slowly refined it and absorbed it. In the blink of an eye, her cultivation base rose significantly. There were many ways to extract sacrificial power, but the Son of Heaven's God bestowment art was unique. Wu Dangkong had been cultivating the Son of Heaven's God bestowment art for a long time now, and had almost reached the consummate level. She had surpassed many ancient emperors, and therefore, as soon as she received Desolate Old Man's sacrificial power, she was on the verge of a breakthrough. This Desolate Old Man's sacrificial power is so strong, and some of the materials are rare. No wonder. He's a heavenly longevity realm old-timer. Since ancient times, even emperors have had to take celestials as their masters, let alone heavenly longevity realm expert. If I can get the sacrificial power of the Emperor of Heaven, the Dharma Saint, the Immortal Lord, and Wan Senshi, it will only be a matter of time before I awaken Concubine Ming's essence. And then there are the 3,000 gods and the heavenly kings. Wu Dangkong was elated. Now that all 9 heavenly kings have come out, I need them to offer sacrifices to me. I represent the Emperor of Heaven, and if the Emperor of Heaven doesn't come out, my position will be the most important. While Wu Dangkong was refining Desolate Old Man's sacrificial power, she didn't notice that it contained something very difficult to detect. Gu Chensha was still in Xin Prefecture City. Images of Desolate Old Man and Wu Dangkong appeared in front of him. Their conversation, their actions, and even their thoughts were vivid and lifelike. At the same time, he could clearly see what was happening in the Yorwild's Dragon Gate. Thanks to subjugating Desolate Old Man, he had fused his own nascent divinity into his sacrificial power. With that, he could acquire the Yorwild's Dragon Gate, as well as Wu Dongkong's heaven-offering decree, and Wu Dongkong's concubine Ming's essence. In the future, Wu Dangkong would be Emperor of Heaven's concubine Ming. In fact, when the Emperor of Heaven wasn't in the world, she would preside over the heavenly court, and would be the spokesperson of the Emperor of Heaven. She would have incredible authority, and would have power that could shake the myriad world. Now Gu Chensha was using Desolate Old Man to fuse his nascent divinity into Wu Dongkong's sacrificial power. Although it was true that Emperor of Heaven could rapidly increase his strength, and even make breakthroughs, over time, he would be completely under Gu Chensha's control. Furthermore, Gu Chensha could use Desolate Old Man as a link to make Wu Dangkong and the Jin Dynasty Heavenly King fight each other, while he would be the fisherman to reap the benefit. Of course, the most important thing was that he could learn the whereabouts of the Emperor of Heaven from Wu Dangkong, as well as the secrets of the Emperor of Heaven. In all of space-time, the boundless universe, the trillions of planes, the past, the present, and the future, the most important thing was the Emperor of Heaven. If he could subjugate the Emperor of Heaven and obtain the Emperor of Heaven's sacrificial power, Gu Chensha would be able to extract the true, limitless, invincible, and limitless substance that would allow him to make breakthroughs in all realms. This was the most important thing. There was a possibility that the Emperor of Heaven had already been born and was in the calming immortal department, but he had yet to awaken his source. Of course, Gu Chensha didn't think that he would be able to capture the Emperor of Heaven so easily. The Emperor of Heaven was the personification of the heavenly Tao. It could be said that the Emperor of Heaven was the heavenly Tao, and the heavenly Tao was the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven wasn't the son of the heavenly Tao. No matter how high Gu Chensha's cultivation base was, he knew that the battle between him and the Emperor of Heaven would be long and drawn out. It was impossible for him to succeed with such a small trick. However, small tricks were still necessary. Many a little makes a mickle, and many small victories made a big victory. This was the only way for Gu Chensha to succeed. I can't control the Emperor of Heaven, but I can control the Heavenly King of Jin. He will definitely descend and infiltrate my calming immortal department. Gu Chensha's gaze turned and he observed everything in the Dragon Gate of Antiquity. In the depths of the Dragon Gate of Antiquity, the Heavenly King of Jin, who had transformed into an ordinary youth, was also observing the changes. At this time, inside the Dragon Gate of Antiquity, the 5 worlds were moving and wriggling. The power of the 5 elements was brewing, giving birth to mountains, rivers, stars, sun, and moon. The vitality of the Dragon Gate of Antiquity had been activated. When Gu Qinsha first found the Dragon Gate of Antiquity, the first thing he saw was the 5 worlds outside the Dragon Gate. They were divided into the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. He had wanted to collect them, but he wasn't as strong as he was now. Heavenly King, what should we do now? The providence of the Central Divine Prefecture is growing stronger and stronger. I think we have to do something about it. I've been observing for the past few days. The providence of the Eternal Dynasty is skyrocketing every day. Although ambitious and ruthless people are born every day, they are either suppressed or subdued. The demonic ape of chaos said to the Heavenly King of Jin, since ancient times, when dynasties were on the verge of destruction, ambitious people would descend from the heavens and cause chaos, paving the way for a true king. Some time ago, many stars descended, and it was the same with the devil Calamity. But now, the people who reincarnated from the stars have been dug out one by the calming, immortal department. Not only have they not rebelled, but they've also worshipped the Tao of the calming, immortal department. In addition, the demon domain has become a training ground for the imperial court. Not only has it not retaliated, but it has also provided the Yonko with an endless supply of resources, allowing the talents inside to grow rapidly. I don't think the momentum is right. Hold down for 3 seconds to copy. Chapter 837. God Maha was different from other gods. He could see far ahead, which was why he could become the king of myriad gods. Furthermore, his cultivation base wasn't at the celestial sovereign realm, but the heavenly longevity realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to command the demon realm. Although he had been sealed for a long time, it was actually a form of training for him. Inside God Maha's body, countless streams of energy were sucked in and out, gradually condensing into strands of the boundless universe power. His cultivation base was actually higher than Old Man Primitive. If the world changed in time, and he encountered some fortuitous encounter, he might very well step into the sky origin realm. Since ancient times, no one had been able to cultivate to the sky origin realm. But now that the world was changing, heroes were emerging, and the chaos was growing fiercer and fiercer, all sorts of impossible things were becoming possible. Star profundities are still being reincarnated. There will be more than a yuan's worth of reincarnated stars appearing, said the chaotic demonic ape. Right now, the number of reincarnated stars that the Calmness Immortal Agency has subdued is actually very small, so it's nothing to worry about. But that's exactly what I'm worried about. That Gu Qinsha is very resourceful, and the Lord of 7 Stars, Zhuge, is even more extraordinary. He has unfathomable profundities. I'm afraid he's planning something big. We have to be on guard. This king will personally collect reincarnated stars and gradually take control of the Calmness Immortal Agency. Right now, Zhuge has set up a constellation department within the agency, which is filled with reincarnated stars. They're still in the process of collecting them. I'll infiltrate the department and take control of it. I'll make the Calmness Immortal Agency suffer the consequences of its actions. Heavenly King Jin, the ordinary youth, was very confident. The reason I haven't made a move yet is because you true gods are offering sacrifices to my Dragon Gate. I'm going to refine the power of the sacrifices and transform it to upgrade the Dragon Gate. Primordial Dragon Sect, transform. Buzz, at Heavenly King Jin's command, the entire Dragon Gate began to absorb the chaotic energy like it was nothing. Countless spaces were born, stacked on top of each other, each filled with all sorts of life force. 09 Small say, net, all of you will occupy a space in the chaotic Dragon Gate and recultivate your god nation. Worship this Dragon Gate. Do not neglect it. In the future, the chaotic Dragon Gate will be the gateway of the heavenly court to the myriad world. It is extremely important. If you can strengthen this gate, not only will it be a great merit, but it will also be more convenient for your descendants to enter the heavenly court in the future, Heavenly King Jin said. God Maha and God Ape exchanged a glance with a helpless expression. It was clear that Heavenly King Jin wanted them to obediently stay in the Dragon Gate and provide sacrifices. In other words, they were being raised like pigs. Now that Heavenly King Jin had received the support of so many true gods, the might of the primeval dragon sect would only grow stronger. If this continued, his power might very well be comparable to chaotic Heavenly King and Heavenly King Daluo in the future. In the future, his status in the heavenly court would rise very quickly. After the heavenly court was established in the future, there would also be fights between heavenly kings, which would then lead to wars between the myriad worlds. Although God Maha and God Ape wanted to break away from Heavenly King Jin and run their own businesses to quickly increase their strength, they had no other choice. It was impossible for them to escape from Heavenly King Jin, and they could be killed at any time. Therefore, they could only find a space to stay and worship. Heavenly King Jin saw that the Dragon Gate had completely stabilized, and the energy in his body transformed, causing his cultivation to increase. Boundless force was brewing in his body, and he would soon reach the heaven primordial realm. After receiving the worship of close to 3,000 true gods, Heavenly King Jin activated the Dragon Gate to baptize himself. In an instant, his heavenly king origin was nourished and strengthened, giving him enough capital. Whoosh! The Dragon Gate spun and shrank until it turned into a rune invisible to the naked eye. It entered Heavenly King Jin's glabella and merged with his will. Then, he left the ancient starry sky and quietly descended. At the same time, in the branch of the Celestial Tranquility Department in Fazhou City, a youth named Chu Feng suddenly trembled as if he had changed into a different person. His eyes opened, and an undetectable strange smile appeared on his face. The Celestial Tranquility Department is indeed powerful. The central plains of the Divine Continent, the desolate wilderness, and the desolate ocean are all shrouded by it. Even ants can be clearly seen when they move. Fusing with the data of the King of Common Life, I can calculate in an instant and eliminate all hidden dangers. However, there's a flaw. If a heavenly venerable deliberately hides, they might not be able to detect it. Of course, there's also Gu Chench's calculation. That person is terrifying, and he can even calculate me at any time. However, now that I've received close to 3,000 true gods' worship, my strength has improved by leaps and bounds. I'll find a chance to subdue this person and make him my subordinate. Then, my status will rise to a terrifying realm in the future. I'm not planning to destroy the Celestial Tranquility Department, but to make it my subordinate. It's not certain who will become the Emperor of Heaven in the future. The youth, Chu Feng, that Heavenly King Jin had transformed into had been hiding in the Celestial Tranquility Department for a long time. At this moment, he had decided to go all out in the Celestial Tranquility Department. At the headquarters of the Celestial Tranquility Department, high up in the sky of the divine central continent, a little Hongmeng tree was faintly discernible. Inside the little Hongmeng tree, Zhuge Ye, Wen Hong, longevity god, god of 5 seasons, Lu Yu, Ling Xiaofei, Chang Wuxiu, and the others had gathered to discuss an important matter. We've already established the Constellation Department to gather all the reincarnated Xing Chun together. Zhuge Ye looked at the core members of the Celestial Tranquility Department and said, "There are a total of 1 yuan of reincarnated Xing Chun. They haven't appeared yet, but it's very likely that they've already appeared among the common people. Once the Emperor of Heaven is born, all these people will awaken and form a force to resist us. What we need to do is to gather all these people and have them completely acknowledge our ideals." That's right. Although I'm a reincarnated spirit star and flying star, I should have held a position in the heavenly court in the future. However, I gave up on that and joined the Celestial Tranquility Department to escape my fate and create a brand new self, Ling Xiaofei said firmly. Me too. Chang Wuxiu had a cold smile on his face. Unfortunately, many people are still hoping for that illusory heavenly court. Instead of hoping for the future, we might as well seize the present. Right now, our Celestial Tranquility Department's power is already established, and the devil calamity isn't a problem. Once we eliminate the devils one by one and occupy the countless devil domains, our imperial court will truly be able to conquer the countless worlds and finally achieve our ideals. Once we gather a total of 1 yuan of reincarnated Xing Qin and worship them all, the power of our Celestial Tranquility Department will increase by many times, Wen Hong said. My myriad star-flying immortal art will also reach true perfection. These are the reincarnated Xing Qin who have recently awakened among the common people. Many of them haven't reported it to us and are hiding themselves. Clearly, they have ulterior motives, so we have to make a move. In the past, our strategy was to observe in secret and let nature take its course. But not now. We have to bring them all into our Celestial Tranquility Department system, and they have to offer sacrifices to us. If they aren't sincere, we have to seize their profoundness and erase their thoughts. Longevity God's expression was very grim. The 36th year of the heavenly talisman is coming, and the great changes of the world are about to begin. We have to be aware of the internal instability. If there are no internal problems and we work together, even if the Emperor of Heaven comes out and becomes our enemy, we will still be as stable as a mountain. As he spoke, Longevity God took out a list of names. The stars on this list flickered, and many names appeared one by one. Sometimes, a few more names would be added. These were the identities of all the reincarnated Xing Qin in the central divine continent. Some of them were hidden, not revealing their identities, but they had no idea that their every move was being observed by the Celestial Tranquility Department. Zhuge Ye took the list and quickly scanned it. Every day, several hundred reincarnated Xing Qin are awakening, but only a few come to report to our Celestial Tranquility Department. The others are all hiding. It seems that our Celestial Tranquility Department's ideals haven't truly taken root in the hearts of the people. Those people all have selfish motives. There's nothing we can do about people's selfishness. When people are the first to obtain great benefits, they will choose to hide and not be discovered by others. This is also human nature. When Hong said, "We will first promote these people who report on their own and use them as role models. Then, we will have them look for other people to educate them." As soon as this person called Chu Feng woke up, he immediately reported to us that he is the reincarnation of Yuan Do Star. Zhuge Ye looked at one of the names, and a careless smile appeared on his face. This person can be promoted to the upper echelons of our constellation department. Yuan Do Star is extremely vast, and its star power is tyrannical. Not bad. Wen Hong also smiled. It seems that Mr. Zhuge can personally discuss with this Chu Feng? That's right. Zhuge Ye suddenly waved his hand. Immediately, a passageway appeared in front of him. The space around him changed, and he arrived in a space outside the small Hongmeng tree. Inside this space, a youth looked around with a somewhat terrified expression. It seemed like he had never seen such a grand scene before. Zhuge Ye appeared, looked at the youth and asked, "You are Chu Feng? You reported on your own, and you are the reincarnation of Yuan Do Star? Many reincarnated Xing Qin choose to hide after awakening, but you actually reported it. From this, it can be seen that your loyalty is commendable. Do you know why I summoned you here?" Chapter 838. Chu Feng lowered his head, looking a bit terrified. "Your subordinate doesn't know what you're planning, Your Excellency. I only know how to obey orders. Whatever the higher-ups tell me to do, I'll do it." "Good," Zhuge Ye said, You really are the reincarnation of the Origin Do star. Your aura is very strong, and your position among the stars is quite high. As you know, the Celestial Calmness Department has established the Constellation Division, which specializes in monitoring the reincarnated stars. Then we'll try to rope them in and convince them to submit to us. You took the initiative to report that you've awakened the profound truths of the stars. That's a great merit. I'm going to promote you to one of the higher-ups of the Constellation Division, and then you'll try to rope in the reincarnated stars. What do you think? I'm willing to serve you, Your Excellency. I'll share the nation's worries, and I'll put my life on the line for the Celestial Calmness Department, Chu Feng shouted. That's right. Of course, you'll also have your colleagues. Zhuge Ye waved his hand, and suddenly, 7 or 8 more youths appeared in the space. There were both men and women, and Chu Feng went over. They were all people who had automatically reported that they were Xing Chen's reincarnations. Your subordinates pay their respects to the Lord of 7 Stars. The reincarnated stars bowed. You are all talented pillars of the nation. In the future, you will stand at the peak of all living beings, and lead them to the ultimate glory. Zhuge Ye looked them over one by one. Now, follow me and swear an oath. After that, the Constellation Division will officially be established. You will all become important figures in the division. Yes, Your Excellency. They all bowed, and Chu Feng did the same. Zhuge Ye faced the void, and began to lead them in their oaths. The boundless universe is everlasting, and the Supreme Man is limitless. The boundless divine continent is filled with suffering and suffering. I save the common people, and advance courageously. For the sake of the common people, I risk life and limb. I defend my country, and my soul returns home. Ancient oaths, mighty wills, and indestructible souls all emanated from his voice. Chu Feng's heart trembled. He activated a concealment technique and began to swear an oath. These oaths converged into power and surged into the other space of the little Hong Meng tree, causing changes. After a long time, the oath was completed. A strange smile appeared on Zhuge Ye's face. All right, the oath is complete. You can go do what you need to do now. The newly established Constellation Department has already communicated with the King of Common Life, and you will be able to obtain all sorts of data regarding the reincarnated stars. Based on this data, you will definitely succeed. There are only 2 months left until the 36th year of the Heavenly Talisman. We will definitely not let you down. All the reincarnators of Xing Chen shouted in unison, like an army. If that's the case, you guys can go back to work. Zhuge Ye nodded. These people immediately left this space. After they left, Zhuge Ye took a deep breath and extracted the power of will from their oaths. One of them was sparkling, and it was simply the most dazzling pearl in the world. Chensha was right. This Chu Feng is the true body of the Heavenly King of Jin. Although he concealed his origin, he didn't expect that Chensha would use the sacrifice of the desolate old man to infiltrate his dragon gate and even his primordial spirit, allowing his oath to contain his origin power. This means that the Heavenly King of Jin has unknowingly sworn loyalty to the Celestial Peace Department and the Imperial Court. Once this karma is established, he basically has nowhere to run or hide. As for me, I can use this oath to break through the realm and become a celestial venerable. Zhuge Ye moved his palm, and the resplendent pearl and Heavenly King of Jin Chu Feng's oath fused with his body. He immediately sat down cross-legged. Rumble! It was as if heaven and earth were exploding. Inside Zhuge Ye's body, wind and clouds surged. Thunder rumbled, and heaven and earth were flipped upside down. All of the tribulations gathered above his head and transformed into a canopy. Tribulations are for me to use. Numbers are for me to calculate. Tribulations are good fortune. Canopy of heaven and earth gather above. Zhuge Ye laughed heartily as the aura of an outlier appeared around him. Boundless astral power was born inside of him. His body was no longer just a pair of 7 stars, but an entire starry sky. Heavenly King of Jin's oath had finally allowed him to understand some of his paths. He had broken through the shackles of fate, become an outlier, and become a celestial venerable. He was no longer the Lord of 7 stars, but he was much more powerful. He had broken free from the blessing of the Tao of heaven. He was like a caterpillar that had transformed into a butterfly that had broken out of its cocoon and soared through the sky. Today, I become a celestial venerable. Zhuge Ye's body flickered, and his power was like a heavenly waterfall, like the tides of the universe. He bowed slightly, and countless worlds and space-time appeared in front of him. He could even see the threads of the Tao of heaven, as well as future variables. The power of the sacrifice surged out of him, surpassing all of the celestials in the Celestial Calmness Department. The Celestial Calmness Department now had Celestial Sage Marshal, Chang Weiyang, Douyu, and the King of Common Life. But now, the power of the 4 celestials combined couldn't compare to Zhuge Ye's, nor could it compare to Zhuge Ye's. It was obvious how powerful Zhuge Ye had become after becoming a celestial venerable. After all, there was no way Zhuge Ye, the Lord of 7 stars, could become a celestial venerable. That was fate. He had broken through the shackles of fate, and his accomplishments far surpassed anyone's imagination. Congratulations! You've finally become a celestial venerable. Wen Hong was the first to arrive. I'm ashamed to have only broken through now. I don't have much time left. Zhuge Ye said, if Grand Preceptor Wen breaks through, you'll definitely be ahead of me. After all, your fate is that of a son of heaven. You'll be shackled more heavily than I am. I feel like it's almost time. I hope I can break through and become a celestial venerable within the next 2 months. Otherwise, when the tribulation of the heavenly talisman descends in 36 years, I'm afraid I'll be in big trouble. Even my nascent divinity and thoughts will be influenced by the Emperor of Heaven. The Emperor of Heaven is already in our Celestial Calmness Department, but we still haven't found him. That's a huge hidden danger. I suspect that aside from the Gate Jin Heavenly King, the other Heavenly Kings are also in hiding. After all, Chernsha hasn't become a celestial venerable yet, so his calculations aren't strong enough. If only he could become a celestial venerable. Zhuge Ye knew that his own ascension couldn't compare to Gu Chensha's. Only if Gu Chernsha became a celestial venerable would the Celestial Calmness Department be truly stable. Otherwise, it would still be a bit unstable. After all, the 4 wilds had fallen into the hands of others, and the divine continent's essence had yet to truly be refined by Gu Chernsha. Once the Emperor of Heaven was born, the divine continent and the Emperor of Heaven would fuse together. That would result in an extremely terrifying change. No matter what, the Celestial Calmness Department's strength has been strengthened further. With the worship of the 5 celestial venerables, the little Hongmeng tree can evolve further and start to transform into the real Hongmeng tree. It might even surpass the Hongmeng tree. There's also another matter, and that's the reincarnation of the endless treasures. Currently, Chernsha has collected 20 endless treasures. The endless heart, endless sword, and endless blade are still wandering outside. Apart from these 3, there are still 13 endless treasures that haven't appeared. I think these treasures should have appeared by now. Wen Hong said, once we gather all 36 endless treasures, we can open the door to the heavenly realm and obtain the throne of the Emperor of Heaven. As long as Chernsha sits on the throne and suppresses it, refining it, and obtaining power, he can overturn the heavenly Tao. Then, even if the Emperor of Heaven appears, he won't have anything to fear. I'm watching closely. However, you're still better at handling this matter. I have to keep a close eye on the Heavenly King of Jin's movements. Many of the reincarnated Xingchen don't want to expose their whereabouts. If the Celestial Calmness Department goes to look for them and force them, it'll be hard to avoid some bad karma and trouble. It's better to let the Heavenly King of Jin deceive them. That way, not only will all the sins fall on him, but we can also use his power to quickly gather the reincarnated Xingchen, Zhuge said. That's just one aspect. The most important thing is to lure the Heavenly King of Primal Chaos, the Heavenly King of Grand Overarching, the Heavenly King of Donghua, and the Heavenly King of Wisdom out. These Heavenly Kings might still be waiting for an opportunity, but I don't believe they'll hold back and let the Heavenly King of Jin keep increasing his power. Now, the Heavenly King of Jin has nearly 3,000 true god sacrifices. In time, the primitive dragon sect will become stronger and stronger, and they'll be able to compete with the top-ranked Heavenly Kings. If we let the Heavenly King of Jin obtain the reincarnated Xingchen of 1 Yuan, then he'll basically be able to compete with the Heavenly King of Primal Chaos, or even surpass him. Wen Hong said, "This is Chencha's plan. He can increase the stakes for the Heavenly King of Jin. These Heavenly Kings won't be able to tolerate it and will naturally appear. Let's wait and see." Zhuge laughed and said, "In order to gain our trust, the Heavenly King of Jin has to constantly offer sacrifices. He thinks that the power of the sacrifices is fake, but he doesn't know that under Chencha's deceptive plan, all his sacrifices are carried out by his own origin. That means we have the sacrifices of the Heavenly King of Jin." That's right. At this time, Lu Baiwei also appeared. Her aura also seemed to indicate that she was about to break through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm at any time. After a long time, about 10 days to half a month, the Heavenly King of Jin will be bewitched by Chensha. All the true god sacrifices in the primordial dragon gate will be transferred to us. In this way, I can use the enormous power to push the great god massacre to the Heavenly Venerable Realm and break through the outliers. The great god massacre art originally had the word God Massacre in it. Since the true god sacrifices submitted to its power, the art would naturally advance. Once Lu Baiwei ascended to the Heavenly Venerable Realm, she would most likely be even more powerful than Wen Hong. In this case, the Heavenly King of Jin will be a piece of juicy meat for us. Not only will we not touch him now, but we will also do our best to nurture him and help him improve and ascend again. We will make him so terrifying that even a chaotic Heavenly King can't help but come out to stop him. We will then capture all the Heavenly Kings in one fell swoop. Once we defeat them, with the sacrifices of these Heavenly Kings, Chensha should be able to break through to the Heavenly Venerable Realm. Zhuge waved his hand, and the figure of Chu Feng instantly appeared in front of everyone. Announcement: This site recommends a free app. Say goodbye to all advertisements. Please follow the official WeChat account to download and install. Appsid, press and hold for 3 seconds to copy. Chapter 839. Gu Chencha's plans were interconnected. He had already obtained the loyalty of the Punisher Heavenly King. Every day, the sacrificial power was gathered in the little Hongmeng tree. After refining it, he extracted the essence and sent it into the divine land gourd, causing its power to increase. Now that Heavenly King of Jin had fallen into his trap, the essence of the sacrificial power had fallen into the hands of the calming celestial department. Zhuge extracted this power and broke through to the Heavenly Lord realm. The tranquil immortal department currently had 5 Empyreans. In ancient times, they could already penetrate through the heavens and earth. Even now, they could absolutely dominate the world. However, if they wanted to rely on this little bit of power to contend with the Sky Emperor and seize and suppress the future Heavenly Court, that was far from enough. Gu Chensha was in Xin Prefecture City, looking up at the stars. Occasionally, there would be shooting stars streaking across the sky and landing on the divine land before disappearing. He knew that another star-reincarnated person had appeared. In the past, he couldn't see the descent of the stars or who the reincarnated person was. Now, he could clearly see who the reincarnated person was. After obtaining the loyalty of the Heavenly King of Jin, His cultivation base was about to break through to the Tao Realm 35 transformation, the Chaos Dust Realm. Once he reached this realm, his cultivation base would explode once more and the circulation of his strength would give off a terrifying feeling. In order to numb the calming celestial department, the heavenly king of Jin, Chu Feng, had to continuously offer sacrifices. Between the sacrifices, it was of great help to Gu Chensha. At the same time, the Punisher Heavenly King Gu Xinjian was managing the Great Burning Empire and was slowly gaining momentum. He was feigning civility with the Great Burning Heavenly King Xiao Yan. The number of sacrifices also slowly increased. Hundreds of billions of people exploded out and huge amounts of sacrifices surged into the little Hongmeng tree, causing its reserves to become extremely vast. Not to mention anything else, Gu Chensha could now use the power of the sacrifices to unleash a few more moves of the Emperor of Heaven's wrath. Its strength was even greater than the great 1,000 primordial dragon lightning. In the future, apart from the Emperor of Heaven, there's also the Emperor of Heaven's harem. The Lord of the Sun and the Moon is equivalent to the Prime Minister. His cultivation base controls the Sun and the Moon, as well as the movement of the stars. His strength is equivalent to the amalgamation of many old fogies in the primordial heaven stage. As for the 9 heavenly kings, all of them were at the peak of the divine prime realm, and they wielded enormous dharma treasures of the boundless world level. Below them are many true gods, celestial sovereigns, and immortal officials. If the heavenly court really appears in the future, even if we don't include the Emperor of Heaven, its scale and strength are far beyond what we can compare to. Even if our tranquil immortal department and the imperial court were to join forces, we wouldn't even be able to compare to 1,000th of the future heavenly court. Gu Chensha calculated their strength. His current cultivation could rival those in the sky origin stage, and he could even defeat them. He calculated that he was almost on par with the future chaotic king in his heyday. If he ascended to the celestial master realm, it would not be a problem for him to sweep away the 9 heavenly kings at their peak, and he could also suppress the future master of the sun and moon. But if he wanted to defeat the future Emperor of Heaven at his peak, even if he cultivated to the celestial master realm, it would still be impossible. Even if he went one step further and cultivated to the heaven longevity realm and the divine prime realm, it would still be impossible for him to defeat the future Emperor of Heaven at his peak, unless he cultivated to the celestial realm. Of course, if the current Emperor of Heaven appeared, his strength would not be comparable to the future Emperor of Heaven at his peak. But what Gu Chensha was worried about was that, after the Emperor of Heaven was born, he would ascend very quickly, and his own ascension speed would be slow, and he would not be able to keep up with the Emperor of Heaven's footsteps. If that happened, not only would he not be able to suppress the Emperor of Heaven, but he would also be suppressed by the Emperor of Heaven. As for the others, Gu Chensha was confident that he could kill, suppress, and deal with them. Even the Sun-Moon Lord Gu Tiansha, Gu Chensha was confident that he could subdue him now, because he had devoured 1/10 of Gu Tiansha's origin source. After obtaining a huge advantage, he already had the upper hand. But this person was also a thorny problem. Of course, he was only thorny, and not a huge threat. Only the Emperor of Heaven, Gu Chensha, really did not have the confidence to suppress, kill, or subdue him. This was not because Gu Chensha's character was not firm, but because he was calm and rational in analyzing his strength. But Gu Chensha was thinking of a series of methods, and he was still in the process of improving. First, he had to ascend to the celestial master realm, comprehend the Dragonless Heart Sutra, and surpass the sacred dragon, so that everyone in the world could become a divergent. Then, he could gather the power of worship, and by relying on the power of worship, Gu Chensha would once again evolve to the point where he could compete with the Emperor of Heaven. At least, he had found a way to deal with the Emperor of Heaven. Generally speaking, the purity of the power of worship was much higher than that of the innate saints, because divergents did not even respect the heavenly way, and were existences that defied the heavenly way. Therefore, divergents would not worship any existences. Since ancient times, almost no one could receive the worship of divergent. If Gu Chernsha turned all the people of China into divergents, the power of worship would be enough to go against the heavens. But now, all the people of China were not geniuses, but the difference between divergents was too great. But Gu Chernsha was confident that he could improve the people of China. 10 million changes, worship to obtain. 3,000 true gods, steal the power of heaven. There are 5 thieves in the sky, see them and prosper. Gu Chernsha revolved his cultivation, and suddenly, a thought of his connected to the chaotic dragon gate, and went to the deepest part of the chaotic dragon gate. Then Gu Chernsha saw the vast power of worship, which was close to the sacrifice of 3,000 true gods. Steal the sun. In an instant, Gu Chernsha started to absorb the power of worship, and then he used his will to simulate the power of worship. It was still in the chaotic dragon gate, and Chu Feng could not feel it. This was equivalent to Gu Chernsha entering the silver vault, stealing a large amount of silver, and then using mud to make it look like silver, and then painting it with a layer of silver paint, passing it off as pearls. This was equivalent to 3,000 true gods worshipping him. At that moment, Gu Chernsha felt extremely satisfied. The true god worship was simply unparalleled. Breakthrough! Waves of power reached Gu Chernsha's main body. In an instant, Gu Chernsha's body suddenly turned into billions of dust, and each dust turned into a world. This world was not an illusion, but a real world. This world kept spinning, changing, and finally gathered. At first, it evolved into the power of medium 1,000, and then it gave birth to the power of major 1,000. He had reached the 35th transformation, the primordial spec. However, he was clearly at the 35th transformation, and yet he could give birth to the power of major 1,000. This was simply unimaginable. Once he reached the 35th transformation, Gu Chernsha's strength skyrocketed once again. At this level, Gu Chernsha was even more confident in capturing the chaotic dragon gate and refining it. Right now, the core control of the chaotic dragon gate was basically under Gu Chernsha's control. As Gu Chernsha stole more and more of the worship from the 3,000 true gods, his control would increase. When he reached 50%, he would be able to refine, suppress, and subjugate all the heavenly kings of Jin. He could play with them however he wanted. Just a bit more and I'll be able to cultivate to the 36th transformation, the level of embodiment transformation. This level is also very beneficial to me. Once I reach this level, I'll be only one step away from becoming a celestial. Gu Chernsha thought to himself. Once I become a celestial, I can do many things. All of this depended on the Heavenly King of Jin Men. Heavenly King Jin lured out Heavenly King Primal Chaos, Heavenly King Zenith, Heavenly King Dong Hua, and Heavenly King Wisdom. In addition, Heavenly King Dong Hua controls the Hong Meng tree. When he is born, the Hong Meng tree that the 3 celestial masters have painstakingly cultivated will fall into his hands. The 3 celestial masters will definitely not give up on the Hong Meng tree. As a result, there will be a huge battle. I can use this opportunity to obtain more things. Also, the Great Spirit God, this time I have your core. Let's see how you can escape. When I gain complete control of the untainted desolate dragon sect, it will be the time of your death. Now I will let you live a little longer. Among the close to 3,000 true gods, the Great Spirit God was among them. The sacrifice of the Great Spirit God was also captured by Gu Chernsha. Through this sacrifice, Gu Chernsha could make the Great Spirit God die without a burial place and completely control him. But now Gu Chernsha could not act rashly and alert the enemy, which would ruin his plan to obtain the untainted desolate dragon sect. After obtaining the untainted desolate dragon sect, Gu Chernsha could use the power of the dragon sect to quickly turn people into geniuses, peerless geniuses, and even natural-born saints. Although Gu Chunxia wanted to capture and kill the great spirit god immediately, he had to endure for now. Then, Gu Chenxia's consciousness came out and focused on Chu Feng. At this moment, Chu Feng was talking to the reincarnated Xing Chen. In the depths of the bottomless sea of sin, many experts were fighting in the demon realm. If one wanted to improve quickly, fighting with the demon race was the best way. The first was to gain battle experience, the second was to exchange merit for wealth, and the third was to use the demon race as sacrifices to the calming celestial department. The calming celestial department had a huge manufacturing system that mimicked the Tao. As long as people killed demons and sacrificed them, they would be able to obtain some of the things they wanted. At the same time, the calming celestial department also had a trading system. Numerous people could trade on this platform. Just like that, the market became really lively. In the fifth layer, there were many demon race people, and those who could come here were all experts. Chu Feng was talking to a teen. This young man actually exuded waves of chaotic aura. Clearly, his power had already reached the Tao realm's 29 transformations, comprehending primordial chaos. He was only a step away from reaching the divine realm's 30 transformations, world creation. Even now, God realm experts were still giants. Within this teen's source, there was a giant star source. Chapter 840. The martial song star and the civil song star occupied an extremely important position among the reincarnations of the many stars. It could even be said that the heavenly court would control many worlds in the future. In the future, the heavenly court would often send down the civil song star and the civil song star to assist the heavenly court in judging the world. The civil song star had already been taken in by the calming immortal department. He was the eternal song star and worked for the imperial court wholeheartedly. However, the reincarnation of the civil song star had yet to appear. The civil song star was a rare talent. If he was taken in by the emperor, he could improve the country's martial spirit and prolong the country's martial fortune. The civil song star, on the other hand, improved the country's literary fortune, enriched its foundation, deepened its culture, and strengthened its cohesiveness. Not only would the people feel proud, but it would also have the fortune of a great country. If the civil song star and the civil song star worked together, the country's fortune would increase by at least 30%. Take the Central Plains for example. Actually, there had been the reincarnations of the civil song star and the civil song star in every dynasty. This was especially true during the era of the ancient Emperor of Heaven. After the civil song star and the civil song star were reincarnated, whichever imperial court they joined would basically be recognized as the orthodox imperial court. Their legitimacy was second only to the heavenly sacrifice decree. Chu Feng, who was the heavenly king of Jin, had come into contact with the civil song star. Gu Chunxia was secretly observing. If he could get the civil song star to join the calming immortal department and publish some news with the martial song star and eternal song star, he could make the people believe that the calming immortal department was the orthodox imperial court. This way the people would feel more at ease. Gu Chunxia could even make a series of moves to make the people believe that he was the Emperor of Heaven and that the calming immortal department was the future heavenly court. Of course, this was not to confuse the people. After all, the winner was king and the loser was in the wrong. No one could tell what the future would bring. If Gu Chunxia defeated the Emperor of Heaven and subdued the 9 heavenly kings, he would become the true Emperor of Heaven. Meanwhile, the Emperor of Heaven who had yet to appear among the people would instead become a calamity, the greatest tumor. Thus, Gu Chunxia wanted to do everything possible to weaken the Emperor of Heaven and the future heavenly court from the people's hearts. This Chu Feng also knows how dangerous it is. Gu Chunxia observed carefully. He definitely won't let this reincarnated literati star join the calming immortal department. Let's see what tricks he has up his sleeves. He even wanted to take Chang Wuxiu as his subordinate and worship the primitive Dragon Gate and the heavenly king of Jin himself. Originally, in the future Heaven Court, it was not his authority to manage the stars, but the authority of the Master of the Sun and Moon. Now that he has taken Chang Wuxiu as his subordinate, he can take over the authority of the Master of the Sun and Moon to improve his own strength. In this chaotic world, it is the best time to take advantage of this opportunity. In the infernal domain, Chu Feng, who was the heavenly king of Jin, looked at the reincarnated literati star and waited for his reply. You must be Chu Feng, the reincarnated Yuendo star. The reincarnated youth of literati star said, I heard that the Tranquil Immortal Department has recently established a constellation department, wanting to rope in all the reincarnated people of Xingqian? Then worship the Tranquil Immortal Department and Gu Chunsha? I have a question, and that is, in the past, the Tranquil Immortal Department has always been secretly monitoring the movements of these reincarnated stars, and has never interfered with their freedom. Why did they suddenly establish the Constellation Department, and want to draw everyone into it? Good question. An unfathomable smile appeared on the face of Chu Feng, who was the heavenly king of Jin. Perhaps the world is about to undergo a great change, the true Emperor of Heaven is about to be born, and the world is going to be turned upside down. They are afraid that the reincarnated people of Xingqian will bring chaos to the world. So the Tranquil Immortal Department wants to eliminate the source of the chaos. In that case, the Tranquil Immortal Department wants to eliminate us. The reincarnated youth of Literati Star was puzzled. He felt that something was wrong with Chu Feng's tone. From Chu Feng's tone, the reincarnated youth of Literati Star felt that this person was not loyal to the Tranquil Immortal Department. Let me ask you now, will you join the Tranquil Immortal Department? Chu Feng did not answer and asked directly. Of course not. I'll stay out of it and observe the situation. The reincarnated youth of Literati Star looked at Chu Feng and said, Right now, there is indeed a huge rumor among the people that the Tranquil Immortal Department is going against the heavens. In the 36th year of the heavenly talisman, the Emperor of Heaven will be born and eliminate the calamity. The divine continent will rise to become the celestial court. As long as one can eliminate the Tranquil Immortal Department or rebel against it, they will obtain great merit. Those who are in cahoots with the Tranquil Immortal Department will fall into an endless hell and suffer for eternity. They will never be able to get out of this predicament, and they can neither live nor die. Admittedly, this is just a rumor, but we are all reincarnated people of Xingqian. During our cultivation, we can faintly sense many things that will happen in the future. Since you are the reincarnated Origin Do Star, you should feel the same as me. If you don't join the Tranquil Immortal Department, you will die. A cruel smile appeared on Chu Feng's face. This is an order from Gu Chunsha. He will not allow anyone with ill intentions or those who do not agree with him to stay in this world. The 36th year of the heavenly talisman is about to arrive, and the great purge of the imperial court has begun. Is this really the intention of the Tranquil Immortal Department? The reincarnated youth of the Literati Star frowned. From what I know, the Tranquil Immortal Department's ideology is not like this. However, since you have grievances in your heart, it is obvious that you were forced to join the Tranquil Immortal Department. If this is true, then I can say that the Tranquil Immortal Department is about to be destroyed, and they have begun to go crazy. Then what will you choose? Chu Feng asked mysteriously. I will not submit even if I die. I will hide far away and leave the divine prefecture, the reincarnated youth of the Literati Star said resolutely. You think you can run away? Chu Feng laughed loudly. That Gu Chensha's strength is enough to allow him to travel through the myriad realms. There is no place in this world that he cannot go. Moreover, he has almost gathered all of the endless treasures. He can do as he pleases in the heaven realm. There is nowhere for you to run and nowhere for you to hide. Since you are so calm, it seems like you definitely have a plan. The reincarnated youth of the literati star seemed to have understood something. Moreover, your every move is under the supervision of the tranquil immortal department. However, you still dare to speak ill of the tranquil immortal department without the slightest scruple. It seems like you have the ability to avoid the supervision of the tranquil immortal department. Under the supervision of the tranquil immortal department, the heavenly net is practically everywhere. You actually have this kind of ability. It seems like you are not as simple as the reincarnated Yuan Do star. If my guess is correct, you came to find me today to rope me in and fight against the tranquil immortal department's rule together, am I right? Clap clap. Chu Feng applauded. Not bad, not bad. As expected of the reincarnated literati star. You are much more intelligent than the martial star. It seems like I made a good choice to find you first. Next, I will look for the celestial secret star, celestial intelligence star, celestial intelligence star, celestial divination star, celestial E-star, and other stars that possess intelligence and wisdom. If I gather them together, they will be able to provide me with many suggestions. Who are you? The reincarnated youth of the literati star asked. Me? Chu Feng transmitted a will into his sea of consciousness. Follow me. We will build the future heavenly court together. You will definitely be able to obtain more. The reincarnated youth of the literati star gasped in surprise. So my lord is actually the heavenly king of Jin. Your subordinate pays his respects to you, but you'd better collect the person who reincarnated from the martial song star as well. The combined power of the civil song star and the martial song star will be 10 times greater than what I can exert alone. It will also be of great use in managing the world and governing the divine land. There is no need for you to tell me this. I will naturally make contact with Chang Wuxiu. I must subdue this person. Listen to my orders now. Disguise yourself and join the tranquil immortal department. Assist me in controlling the entire constellation department. When the time comes, we will wipe out the entire tranquil immortal department in one fell swoop. This merit will be rewarded according to merit in the future. When the heavenly Tao descends, your position will most likely be unfettered. Chu Feng tried his best to bewitch him. However, if I join the tranquil immortal department, I will have to carry out a sacrifice. Once I carry out the sacrifice, it will be equivalent to acknowledging the ideals of the tranquil immortal department. In this way, I will not be able to escape the karmic entanglement between me and the tranquil immortal department. There is no harm in doing so. First, carry out the sacrifice to me and the primordial dragon sect. Chu Feng had already thought it through. I will use a secret technique to condense the power of the sacrifice and inject it into the tranquil immortal department's primordial tree. This way, I can steal the sky and change the sun without being discovered. This is the highest realm of mind deceiving. This way, it will be flawless. The reincarnated youth of the literati star revealed a joyful expression. Gu Chensha withdrew his gaze. Chu Feng's trick was completely within his grasp. However, he now had an even deeper layer of worry. Countless reincarnated stars received guidance from the unseen world. They distanced themselves from the tranquil immortal department and waited for the Emperor of Heaven to descend. This kind of thinking was deeply rooted in the depths of their mind. It was very difficult to clear it. It could be said to be their fate and mission. While Gu Chensha could indeed allow them to sever the threads of fate, a large portion of them would not be willing. This kind of situation was really problematic. Gu Chensha temporarily didn't touch Chu Feng and told him to continue to recruit these people. This was because he had recruited the reincarnated stars and obtained the sacrifices. But in the end, it was all for Gu Chensha. He definitely didn't know that Gu Chensha could use the sacrifices of the primordial dragon sect. The 3,000 true god sacrifices allowed Gu Chensha to directly break through to the Tao Realm 35 transformation. In the future, with the worship of the 3,000 true gods, Gu Chensha would be able to reach the Tao Realm 36 transformations. Looks like I have to ask Zhuge to promote Chu Feng again, give him more power, and let him collect more people who have reincarnated from the stars. This way, the other heavenly kings will appear. Apart from that, what about Douyu? Gu Chensha placed his thoughts on the other side. That was news about Douyu and the 3 sky venerables. In Black Heaven and Earth sect, within an ancient hall was where the 3 sky venerables lived. At this moment, the 3 sky venerables and Douyu were talking. Father and the 2 uncles. Douyu spoke with fervor and assurance. When I escaped from the Celestial Tranquility Department, I received news that Heavenly King Donghua, the future third in the celestial heavens, has been born. Heavenly King Donghua is the being who controls the Hongmeng tree. After he is born, the first thing he will do is take back the Hongmeng tree. Chapter 841. You escaped from the Celestial Calmness Department. Looks like you know a lot. I didn't expect you to be the Punisher Heavenly King's mother. No wonder the immortal slaying god Gord listens to your orders. Unfortunately, the Punisher Heavenly King has emerged, and the Gord has fallen into Gu Chensha's hands. Primeval Ancient looked at Douyu and sensed her aura. She had nothing to do with the Celestial Calmness Department, and her fate wasn't connected to it. The Punisher Heavenly King's name is Gu Xinjian. He was sent by Gu Chensha to take control of the Inferno continent and increase the number of people in the Celestial Calmness Department. However, I don't think the Punisher Heavenly King will side with Gu Chensha. As a Heavenly King, he will be an invincible existence when the Heavenly Court is established. What good will it do to side with Gu Chensha? Heavenly Lord Putuo asked. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about our control of the Hongmeng tree, Douyu said. What did father and uncles say about Heavenly King Donghua? Ha 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 ha. Heavenly Lord Victorious Battle laughed. Father, why are you laughing? Douyu asked. The 3 of us predicted this would happen. The Hongmeng tree is a divine item, and we definitely won't be able to obtain it. However, we can use this opportunity to build a good relationship with Heavenly King Donghua. If we become his subordinates, we will be able to achieve great things and gain great power when the Heavenly Court is established, Heavenly Lord Victorious Battle said. Is that so? Douyu frowned. What if Heavenly King Donghua forcibly takes back the Hongmeng tree, or even attacks father and uncles? Besides, no one can say for sure in the future. Even if the Emperor of Heaven comes out and can suppress the Celestial Calmness Department, don't forget that there's still Gu Taxian. As long as he and the Heavenly Tao don't win, we don't know who will rule the Heavenly Court in the future. Also, Heavenly Kings can be robbed. For example, Heavenly King Innocuous Heavenly King was originally Jing Fanxing, but Jing Qiu stole Jing Fanxing's Heavenly King source and fused it with him to become the new Innocuous Heavenly King. Father and uncles are willing to be his subordinates instead of becoming Heavenly Kings themselves? Our ambition should be much greater than Jing Qiu. The 3 Heavenly Lords fell silent. After a long while, Heavenly Lord Yuan Gu said, Jing Qiu is an audacious person who breaks all taboos. Even we have to admit that he is unscrupulous, courageous, and resourceful. In the future, he will be the greatest enemy of the Celestial Calmness Department. Now that he has obtained the source of Innocuous Heavenly King and the Heart of Desolation, his strength has surpassed ours. Back then, he was even the first to stand up and rebel against the Yonko. Although his clan was wiped out, I can see that he is good at gambling. I think his scheming is even above that of the Great Spirit God. Jing Qiu forcefully seized the source of Innocuous Heavenly King. He will definitely be in big trouble in the future, but I can see that he has long since made preparations, said Heavenly Lord Putu. Jing Qiu, Calamity Heavenly King Guhua, and Xian Xin have long joined forces to devour father and my 2 uncles and seize the primordial mist tree. This is the information I obtained from the Celestial Calmness Department. Right now, this alliance is very chaotic and danger lurks everywhere. We should make preparations as soon as possible, lest we become meat on the chopping block, unable to extricate ourselves. Do Yu was trying her best to mislead them, and what she said was the truth. If that is the case, what do you think we should do? Heavenly Lord Victorious Fighter asked. Everyone under the heavens is ambitious. For example, that master of the Sun Moon, Gu Tiansha, also wants to devour us at all times. We absolutely cannot rely on him. Apart from him, there are no other good powers except for the heavenly kings. What I mean is that we cannot rely on them, but we can borrow their strength. If Jing Qiu can devour the heavenly kings, so can we, said Do Yu. It all depends on whether father and my 2 uncles can make up their minds. Speak frankly. Heavenly Lord Yuan Gu looked at Do Yu. We can borrow the strength of the Celestial Calmness Department, said Do Yu. If father and my 2 uncles join the Celestial Calmness Department and join forces with us, along with me and Gu Xinjian, we can form a huge power within the Celestial Calmness Department. We can even push Gu Chencha's authority away. That way, we can borrow the strength of the Celestial Calmness Department to devour Heavenly King Dong Hua. You've joined the Celestial Calmness Department and come here to persuade us? Heavenly Lord Victorious Fighter's expression changed. If that is the case, then you are not my daughter. I will definitely kill you. At this time, killing intent also appeared on Primordial Gu and Putua's faces. The Celestial Calmness Department defies the heavens and must be destroyed. This is a matter of principle, and it is also a matter of choosing sides and survival. Jing Qiu devouring Jing Fanqing's origin source is an internal struggle of the heavenly court. If Jing Qiu had made contributions, then he would not have been punished at all. However, if he joined the Celestial Calmness Department, then he would have walked a dark path. There would be no turning back. We have been able to stand tall for so many years because we have judged the situation and acted according to the rules of the heavenly Tao. That is why we are able to do this with ease, said Heavenly Lord Victorious Fighter. Times have changed. Your methods are no longer feasible, said Do Yu. Riches can only be found in danger. If you do not dare to take the gamble and still want to achieve great things, then that is just wishful thinking. Father and my 2 uncles, do you still not understand the current situation? If you do not change and continue to walk the same path as before, then you will be devoured by others sooner or later. When that happens, you will sink into oblivion for all eternity, even worse than slave. Right now, you are pinning your hopes on the appearance of Heavenly King Dong Hua, and then relying on him. But why don't you think about it? Firstly, it is still unknown how Heavenly King Dong Hua will treat us. Secondly, even if we join him, we will only be minor characters under his command. When the time comes, given your strength, are you going to be willing to be ordered around? Thirdly is the most important. According to what I know, the heavenly kings at the top of the rankings, such as Heavenly King Primal Chaos, Heavenly King Daluo, and even Heavenly King Jin, are all hidden within the Celestial Calmness Department, concealing their identities and preparing to make a move. I think that Heavenly King Dong Hua is among them. In addition, even Emperor Heaven King's reincarnated body is already among them. What? Are you telling the truth? The 3 celestial venerables spoke at the same time. That is very likely, said Do Yu. If I join the Calmness Celestial Agency, I will still have a place for myself. That is because the Punisher Heavenly King is my son. In the Calmness Celestial Agency, there is no one other than Gu Chensha with better aptitude than the Punisher Heavenly King. Do you think that if we join the calmness celestial agency and borrow its power, we will be able to obtain many benefits? We might even be able to discover Emperor Heaven King's reincarnated body first. At that time, we will not be able to play around with people like Jingqiu. We can even borrow the power of the calmness celestial agency to deal with people like Xian Xin. How confident are you in gaining Gu Chencha's trust? Asked the victorious fighting celestial. Gu Chensha will not trust me, nor will he trust my father and my 2 uncles. However, we can also join the calmness celestial agency because Gu Chensha will not reject us. We must set an example for the people of the world. This is a combination of benefits. At present, there is no longer any reason for us to stay in the Black Heaven Earth Sect alliance. If we become a part of the Imperial Court, when the Emperor Heaven King appears in the future, we will immediately follow the Emperor Heaven Earth Sect. That will be a great merit. Another point is that if we join the calmness celestial agency, we will definitely obtain benefits first. It is possible that Heavenly King Dong Hua will come looking for us soon. After I became the Punisher Heavenly King's mother, I have many ideas. I know that the Emperor Heaven King's appearance will definitely be to disintegrate the calmness celestial agency from within and gain control of the divine continent. He will definitely not appear in the outside world and fight against the Yonko. That is because if he does, the people of the world will definitely die. This is not in line with the Emperor Heaven's Tao. The Emperor Heaven will definitely kill the culprit. The easiest way to kill the culprit is from within the Imperial Court. Once the culprit is eliminated, he will naturally be able to swallow the entire divine continent. Douyu spoke clearly and logically. That's right. This can be said to have pointed out the essence of the matter. There have been revolts in the past dynasties. There have been massacres among the common people, and there have been revolts that have resulted in rivers of blood. There have also been political revolts that have occurred in the imperial court. This has no great impact on the common people. It doesn't matter who is the emperor. The Emperor Heaven King is benevolent. He will definitely choose to kill the culprit in the imperial court. Primeval Celestial also agreed. In that case, we can feign civility with the calmness celestial agency and join them. How about it? Celestial Pu-Tu also agreed, having been moved by Douyu's words. However, you still need to discuss this matter with Gu Chensha. We will only be willing to join if we obtain greater benefits for ourselves. Otherwise, this matter will be dropped, Celestial Master Victorious Battle said. That's natural. Father and my 2 uncles joining the calmness celestial agency would be a huge blow to the alliance of the Black Heaven Earth sect. Douyu said, moreover, your status in the immortal Tao is extremely high. Among the common people, you are an invincible existence. If you join the calmness celestial agency, then Gu Chensha can be used as a propaganda tool. In an instant, his destiny and reputation will increase by many folds. At the very least, in the eastern wilderness, some of the profound sects that are on the sidelines will surrender and no longer listen to the Black Heaven Earth sect. We can take this opportunity to establish the Department of Immortals and bring these profound sects under our control. In this way, we will also have great authority in the calmness celestial agency. We can even use Gu Chencha's power to seize the endless heart. You should quickly discuss this matter, Celestial Master Victorious Battle said. I will continue to discuss with my 2 brothers how to maximize the benefits. Of course. With that, Douyu's body flickered and disappeared. After Douyu left, Primeval Celestial Master Victorious Battle looked at Douyu and Pu-Tu and asked, how was it? This matter will have to be decided by Heavenly King Dong Hua. Celestial Master Victorious Battle suddenly bowed toward the depths of the void. Hold down for 3 seconds to copy. Chapter 842. The voice was clear, distant, deep, and pleasant. It seemed to contain all the gentleness and elegance in the world. Anyone who heard this voice would think that the owner of this voice was the most perfect man. This was Heavenly King Donghua, ranked third and in control of the primordial tree. He was the future overlord of the heavenly court, the greatest existence who controlled infinite space, infinite universes, infinite planes, and infinite worlds. The three celestial venerables were very respectful when they heard this voice. They had long pledged their allegiance to this heavenly king, and Douyu was just feigning civility. Now, they naturally had to listen to the heavenly king's orders. Heavenly King Donghua, do you mean to say that you agree to let us join the Calmness Division? Just now, my daughter said that you are also in the Calmness Division, and that even the Emperor of Heaven might be there. Is this true, or is it just a lie? Yuan Gu Celestial asked. This is true, but I don't know exactly where the Emperor of Heaven is. When the Emperor of Heaven is born, he will naturally come out, Heavenly King Donghua said. Me, Primordial Chaos, Zenith Heaven, Wisdom, and Gene Men are all hiding in the Calmness Division. It's just that we don't know who we are. There are hundreds of millions of talents in the Calmness Division, and it's not easy to find just a few of us. According to Heavenly King Donghua, are we going to seize power in the Calmness Division? Victorious Heavenly King also had his own ideas. As for that Punisher Heavenly King, how should we deal with him? Is he friend or foe? The Punisher Heavenly King is temporarily under Gu Chencha's control. However, when the Emperor of Heaven is born, his control will be lifted, and the Punisher Heavenly King will truly awaken and regain his true identity. Heavenly King Donghua said, "You can work with him on this. I will push for it from behind. After you enter the Calmness Division, I will instruct you on what to do." That Gu Chensha is crafty and cunning, and his cultivation is profound. I'm afraid he'll beat us at our own game and use us to carry out all sorts of schemes. This boy's craftiness is already above ours. If it's a battle of wits, we might not be his match. For the first time, the three Empyreans didn't have confidence in themselves. The three of them were astute and astute. Ever since the primordial era until now, they had never suffered any losses. Because of this, they knew very well how to judge the situation. They did not rely on their hot-bloodedness to fight head-on. You don't have to worry about this. That Gu Chensha is powerful, but once the Emperor of Heaven is born, he can be suppressed immediately. We don't even need the Emperor of Heaven. Right now, I have already contacted No Tribulation, Disaster, and Great Fun to work together to expel the foreign source inside the Master of the Sun and Moon. Once it is expelled, the Master of the Sun and Moon will be able to leave Gu Chencha's body and become the real Master of the Sun and Moon. The original Master of the Sun and Moon was swallowed by Gu Chensha, but he has never been able to truly refine and merge the source of the Master of the Sun and Moon. If we seize the opportunity, we can save the Master of the Sun and Moon. At that time, the 9 heavenly kings and the Master of the Sun and Moon will work together to activate the matrix of the Celestial Court and turn the Divine Prefecture into the future Celestial Court. When the Emperor of Heaven is born, Gu Chensha will basically have no ability to turn things around. The one we are most afraid of is Gu Taxian. To be honest, without Gu Taxian, Gu Chensha and the Celestial Calmness Department are all clay chickens and pottery dogs that can be destroyed with a flick of a finger. Heavenly King Donghua's voice gradually faded. Go join the Celestial Calmness Department. In addition, you can borrow the power of the Celestial Calmness Department to capture the Celestial Master. Seize the prehistoric civilization's one god system from her. This one god system is a great blasphemy to the Emperor of Heaven. However, the source is very useful. If you can obtain it and offer it to the Heavenly Tao, it can make the Heavenly Tao even more perfect and assist the Heavenly Tao in devouring Gu Taxian. In short, if you can do this, you may not be the 9 heavenly kings in the future, but the 12 heavenly kings. After the Emperor of Heaven and the heavenly Tao devour Gu Taxian, they will expand many times again. It won't be difficult to add a few more heavenly kings. So that's what you said. The three heavenly venerables looked at each other and saw the ambition in each other's eyes. In Sin State City, Gu Chensha saw Douyu, who had returned. Douyu reported everything that had happened. Actually, there was no need for a report. Gu Chensha could see everything clearly. However, Douyu's actions made him nod, because this matter showed that Douyu had sincerely joined forces with the Celestial Calmness Department. Even if the Heavenly Court appeared in the future, it would not be able to shake her will. Your Highness, this is how it is. The three heavenly venerables were convinced by me to join the Celestial Calmness Department. Your Highness can use this to quickly dissolve the alliance of the Black Heaven-Earth sect, and even gain the allegiance of countless immortal cultivators. You can even plot to obtain the Heart of Infinity, Douyu said. You have been deceived. Gu Chensha looked at Douyu plainly. What do you mean? Douyu was shocked. Actually, the three heavenly venerables have long received guidance from Heavenly King Donghua. Otherwise, they would not have been able to obtain anything from the primordial mist tree. However, you have also contributed greatly. As long as we can rope them into the Celestial Calmness Department, whether they are sincere or not, I can still grab Heavenly King Donghua from them and steal it in passing. Gu Chensha was quite impressed with Douyu. Tell the three heavenly venerables that the Celestial Calmness Department will establish a new department. Have them gather the mystical sects of the immortal Tao, gather the sacrifices, and if we succeed in the future, the entire immortal world will be under their control. In addition, I will personally activate the mystic arts and condense Kiliacosm seeds for them. After obtaining the primordial mist tree, they will indeed ascend to the celestial longevity realm. However, it is still wishful thinking for them to advance further and touch upon the secrets of celestial origin. But after I give them Kiliacosm seeds, they will be able to gradually convert their world power into celestial origin power. Although they may not ascend to the celestial prime realm, at least there will be hope. With that, Gu Chensha waved his hand and three seeds formed, pulsing with deathless energy. It was like three Kiliacosm worlds were in his palm. Douyu knew what was good and what was bad. Her expression was one of extreme shock. You casually created this? Kiliacosm seeds. Since ancient times, the celestial longevity realm had always been the peak. No living being had ever reached the celestial prime realm. That was because after the celestial longevity realm, it was basically impossible to condense Kiliacosm seed. In the recent decades, the appearance of the celestial talisman emperor had thrown the heavenly Daos into chaos, causing some changes to the heavenly Daos. That was why there were some supreme experts who broke through and condensed the energy of the great Kiliacosm within their bodies. After that, they condensed the energy of the great Kiliacosm into a seed, which would then hatch into a great Kiliacosm. That was the Heaven Yuan realm. For example, the Great Spirit God and the Prehistoric Old Man. However, the three heavenly venerables hadn't broken through to that point yet. They were still struggling to condense Kiliacosm power, then turn it into Kiliacosm seed. But now Gu Chensha had given them three pure Kiliacosm seed. Just like that, as long as they obtained the three seeds, they would be able to step into the celestial prime realm. This was like reaching the heavens in a single step. It was like the three heavenly venerables were just normal disciples of the royal family, but they were suddenly promoted to crown prince. King's skills far exceed our imagination. I think everyone has miscalculated. After the shock, Douyu said sincerely, I think King is about to break through to heavenly venerable realm? At that time, you will sweep the world and be invincible. Killing Heavenly King Donghua will be as easy as killing a little chick. Gu Chensha had secretly obtained the sacrifice of the prehistoric old man. Through the prehistoric old man, He had directly contacted the prehistoric Dragon Gate. After stealing the sacrifice of close to 3,000 true gods and heavenly kings of Jin, his cultivation base had been growing crazily. Now, he was at the Tao Realm 35 transformation, the prehistoric realm. He could turn the land of dust into the universe, so he could create Kiliacosm seed. Of course, these Kiliacosm seeds were refined from the sacrifice of 3,000 true gods. The three heavenly venerables will definitely make many requests, but as long as you take out the Kiliacosm seeds, they will come immediately. Gu Chensha waved his hand. Go quickly. I hope to see the three heavenly venerables appear in front of me tomorrow. Yes. Douyu left in a hurry. As expected, on the second day, before daybreak, the three heavenly venerables turned into three old men and appeared in the small courtyard that Gu Chensha was in. Then, they saw a few servants serving tea in the small courtyard. Fa Wuxian, Jing Fanxing, Martial Emperor. The three heavenly venerables looked at the three servants. They were all living the lives of ordinary people and seemed satisfied. The three of them were all great existences in the past. Fa Wuxian was the reincarnation of the endless umbrella. Jing Fanxing was even more amazing. He was the reincarnation of the innocuous king. Martial Emperor was once the ruler of the God continent. He had founded a dynasty and was considered an important person in the history of the God continent. The three heavenly venerables even knew that if the God continent became the future heavenly court, then Emperor Gu, who had once been the ruler of the God continent, would obtain a good position. Even if he died, he would be revived. Those who didn't die would have a higher position, second only to the 9 kings. You are finally here. Are you prepared to join the coming celestial department? Gu Chensha looked at the three old men that the three heavenly venerables had transformed into. He wasn't surprised at all. In the past, these three heavenly venerables were legendary existences. The mystic immortal Tao sects would worship the three heavenly venerables as their ancestors whenever they heard their names. Even the ancient sons of heaven, who had obtained the heaven sacrifice talisman, would respect the three heavenly venerables as their masters and ask them about the way of governing a country and cultivating. In the past, these three heavenly venerables were lofty existences in Gu Chensha's eyes. But now, he could kill them with a flick of his finger. In his eyes, these three had no secret. In this world, the only thing Gu Chensha feared and had no confidence in was the Emperor of Heaven. Apart from him, everyone else was an ant. As expected, heroes come from the youth. Victorious Fighter frowned when he saw Gu Chensha's carefree manner. He felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. It seemed that Gu Chensha didn't have the demeanor of someone who knew how to be courteous to the wise. A website recommends beautiful legs in stockings, youthful cheeks, and plump buttocks to watch online. Quickly follow the official WeChat account. Mainvto1, long press for 3 seconds to copy, to watch online. Chapter 843. Kneel. Gu Chensha uttered 2 words. What? Heavenly Venerate Victorious Fighter was dissatisfied with Gu Chensha's attitude and wanted to demand a higher price so that he could join the calming immortal department. Even Heavenly Venerate Yuan Gu and Heavenly Venerate Pu Tua were infuriated by Gu Chensha's attitude, let alone Heavenly Venerate Victorious Fighter. Since the primeval era, they had always enjoyed lofty statuses no matter where they went. There had never been a young man who would sit so casually in front of them. However, Gu Chensha's words had thrown them into the abyss. Gu Chensha had actually asked them to kneel. This was simply an unbearable humiliation. The 3 heavenly venerates almost suspected that they had heard wrong. I asked you to kneel. Did you not hear me? Gu Chensha's gaze swept over the 3 heavenly venerates before he said, It is a wise choice for you to join the calming immortal department. It will prevent you from dying in the future. However, you don't have the slightest bit of respect. This is a taboo. Kneel down and worship. This is a necessary etiquette. Even the disciplinary heavenly king does this. His status is thousands of times more important than yours. Do you think that just because you are one of the 3 heavenly venerates, you can act like a tyrant in the calming immortal department? Ha 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 ha. Heavenly venerate victorious fighter roared with laughter as a sharp killing intent appeared in his eyes. Good, very good, Guchensha. I thought that you were a talent, but I never imagined that you would start to get arrogant after gaining power. You don't know the immensity of the heavens and earth. You are simply deranged. Doyu, is this the way out that you have found? Doyu didn't say anything. He was as cold as a rock. He looked down, as if this struggle had nothing to do with him. Let's go. Heavenly Venerate Yuan Gu also wanted to sneak into the calming, immortal department. However, Gu Chencha's attitude was simply intolerable. Furthermore, if they really could endure it and kneel down and submit, it would actually seem fake. Secondly, if Gu Chensha were to publicize this matter, they would lose all face and their reputation would drop to the extreme. Looking calmly at Gu Chensha, he said, Gu Chensha, if we work together, you'll benefit immensely. You'll gain a lot of prestige, as well as control over the never-ending heart. You'll be able to dissolve the alliance between the black sect of Heaven and Earth and Patriarch Heaven and Earth. Right now, the Celestial Tranquility Department isn't in a very good situation. The 4 wilds have fallen into the hands of others, and the Divine Prefecture hasn't truly taken control yet. You're all clones, right? An unfathomable smile appeared on Gu Chencha's face. A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. The craftiness of you 3 heavenly venerables is rarely seen since ancient times. However, no matter how crafty a rabbit or fox is, they can't escape the hunter's bait. I used the Kiliacosm seeds to tempt you, but you still took the bait. Although you didn't refine the seeds, you couldn't help but study them. Because of that, I was able to find your true bodies. Now I know who's backing you. Heavenly King Donghua, isn't he? You! When the 3 heavenly venerables heard Gu Chensha mention Heavenly King Donghua, their faces flickered, and they prepared to flee. However, they found that they couldn't move at all. Moreover, vortexes had also appeared behind them. These vortexes had a massive pulling force that continuously pulled in their clones. In the end, even the true bodies of the 3 heavenly venerates were involuntarily pulled in. The 3 Empyreans had expressions of extreme fear on their faces. They had many avatars, and their true bodies were hidden in a place that no one knew about. But now, they had all been gathered together by some sort of power, and then drawn to this small courtyard. In other words, the 3 heavenly venerables had nothing to rely on. If Gu Chensha destroyed them here, they really would be dead. It took a lot of energy to create the 3 Kiliacosm seeds, said Gu Chensha. But if it weren't for this, I wouldn't have been able to lure you 3 old foxes out. Even Heavenly King Donghua felt that the 3 seeds of the Kiliacosm were pure and without any impurities. How could Heavenly King Donghua understand my methods? If he did, how could I compete with Emperor Heaven King in the future? As Gu Chencha's cultivation had increased, he had stolen the sacrifices of 3,000 true gods. His methods had become miraculous, and he could already see through the minutest details and toy with the 3 heavenly venerables in the palm of his hand. Even Heavenly King Donghua, who was behind the 3 heavenly venerables, wasn't a worthy opponent for Gu Chensha. 3 heavenly venerables, your current cultivation is at the heavenly longevity realm. But to me you're still like chickens and dogs. I can even suppress 3 heavenly kings, let alone 3 ordinary heavenly longevity realm cultivators. Gu Chensha pointed at Fa Wuxian, Jing Fanxing, and Emperor Wu. These are the 3 who went against me. You've seen what happened to them. If you don't kneel down and sincerely offer sacrifices, then there will be 3 more ordinary people in this small courtyard. They will live like ordinary people every day. Hearing this voice, Fa Wuxian, Jing Fanxing, and Emperor Wu all lowered their heads. Fa Wuxian was born with a glorious halo. He was a disciple of the school of legalism, the #1 aristocratic family in the divine prefecture, and he was a natural-born saint. He was named Fa Wuxian because he wanted to compete with heavenly talisman great Emperor Gu Taxian. But now, he lived as an ordinary person in this courtyard, not daring to face Gu Chernsha. Seeing the state the three of them were in, the three heavenly venerables felt that if they were in the same state they might as well die. This subordinate greets the minister. At this time, Heavenly Venerable Yuan Gu suddenly did something unexpected. He knelt down and prostrated himself in front of Gu Chernsha. At this time, Heavenly Venerable Victorious Battle and Heavenly Venerable Pu Tua also knelt down and kowtowed repeatedly. A wave of sacrificial power instantly rushed out, but it was absorbed by the divine land gourd above Gu Chensha's head. Ha 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 ha! Gu Chensha laughed. As expected of the three heavenly venerables, you've never suffered a loss in the primordial era. Your choices are much more straightforward than others. Now I finally understand why you can live until now. You can control the changes in the divine prefecture and become Gu Tianzi's teachers. When the three heavenly venerables heard Gu Chensha mention Heavenly King Donghua, they knew that the situation was over. Since Gu Chernsha knew who they were relying on, he would definitely have a way to deal with it. In that case, their stubborn resistance would only make them cannon fodder. Fa Wuxian, Jing Fanxing, and Martial Emperor Wu were stunned when they saw this. They had never expected that the three heavenly venerables, who had been famous since the primordial era and were the supreme patriarchs of the immortal Tao, would actually kneel down and worship Gu Chernsha. "Dou-Yu," Gu Chernsha said. "This subordinate is here." Dou-Yu immediately stepped forward. "Command the three heavenly venerables to establish a new department called the Itinerant Immortal Department. Act according to the situation. According to the future laws of the heavenly court, all those who have cultivated to the 20 transformations of the Tao realm, gathering and dispersing impermanence, and haven't been given an official position, are called itinerant immortals." Gu Chernsha ordered. "In addition, pay close attention to Heavenly King Donghua. I must find him." "Yes." Dou-Yu was very excited. "Department head, we are under Heavenly King Donghua's control and can no longer control the primordial tree. In fact, the tree has already fallen into Heavenly King Donghua's hands." Victorious Heavenly King Dou's mind raced. "I'm afraid Heavenly King Donghua won't trust us. He might even kill us. He's already infiltrated the Department of Calmness, and our days are in danger. It's very possible that we'll be killed by him at any time." "Don't worry about that. I've already activated my heaven-concealing method," Gu Chernsha said. "Heavenly King Donghua hasn't truly reached his peak yet. He hasn't recovered to his peak, so it's impossible for him to escape my clutches. The fact that all of you are willing to submit to me shows that you know how to adapt to the circumstances. Now, go and register yourself in the Little Hong Meng tree. After that, get all your disciples to submit to the Calming Immortal Department. I hope to see this matter completed within a day." "Yes, yes, yes." The three celestial venerables immediately left. After the three celestial venerables left, Dou-Yu immediately said, "Your Highness, while the three celestial venerables are sincerely offering sacrifices now, I'm afraid it's still not completely safe. The three celestial venerables are most adept at changing their minds. Now that we have something on them, and we're using restrictions to punish them, they'll definitely find a way to break the restrictions and escape our control. We have to be on our guard. I'm definitely aware of this, but aside from the Emperor of Heaven, no one can make the three celestial venerables break free from my restrictions. If the Emperor of Heaven appears and makes a move, I'll definitely sense it." Gu Chernsha said, My top priority is to lure out Heavenly King Donghua, then use all my power to suppress him and force him to offer sacrifices to me. With that, I can refine the primordial tree and devour the primitive dragon gate. Then, I'll activate my backup plan to obtain the heavenly sacrifice decree. Once the three treasures merge into my body, I'll be able to break through to the heavenly sovereign realm and even the heavenly longevity realm. Gu Chensha already had his own plans. Now, his plans were almost ready to be activated. Firstly, he had successfully set up the primordial dragon sect. The Gate Gene Heavenly King and the 3,000 true God priests were all under his control. Secondly, he had subdued the primordial old man and made him Wu Dang Kong's subordinate. Thirdly, the 3 celestial venerables had also become Gu Chensha's slaves. He could capture Heavenly King Donghua and further obtain the primordial tree. In this way, the 3 treasures would merge into the divine land gourd, and the divine land gourd would become the strongest divine item. Of course, the Heart of Infinity would also have to be collected into the divine land gourd, and all 36 endless treasures would have to be collected. This was Gu Chensha's ambition, and he could already see the hope of success in his plans. However, Wu Dangkong will be the Emperor of Heaven's concubine in the future heavenly court. However, the Emperor of Heaven has another wife, the Empress. Who is the Empress? I haven't been able to deduce it. A hint of doubt flashed in Gu Chensha's mind. Chapter 844. These days, Gu Chensha had been calculating and studying many things about the future heavenly court. He had more or less figured out the structure of the future heavenly court. For example, the Master of the Sun and Moon, the 9 heavenly kings, and then the many true God officials, immortal officials, gods, and immortals under them. They all had their own duties and positions, forming an extremely large operational governing body. Other than that, the subordinates of the heavenly court, the 4 barren lands, which protected the heavenly court, were divided into many feudal vassals. Then there was the human realm, monster realm, demon realm, immortal realm, also known as the scattered immortal realm, and the underworld. In the future structure, it definitely wouldn't be like the present, where humans and monsters lived together and gods and demons were in chaos. The future human realm was the human realm. It was also extremely huge, but everyone was human. If a powerful cultivator was born and cultivated to the dermic power realm, they would ascend to the immortal realm. The monsters and demonic cultivators in the human realm were the same, but they would ascend to the monster realm and demon realm. The underworld was where after people died, their souls would enter and be divided into good and evil to undergo reincarnation. Of course, it wasn't just humans. Immortals, demons, monsters, and gods were the same. Even the immortal officials of the heavenly court would be sent to the underworld to be tortured and reincarnated everywhere. This was the structure of the future heavenly court. There would be many powerful people in the future heavenly court. They would form a force that could suppress the heavens and then gather as one to stabilize the order. After careful calculation and research, Gu Chensha also felt that the order established by the future heavenly court was very stable and had almost no loopholes. However, Gu Chensha felt that this kind of order and structure wasn't what he wanted, and it definitely wasn't an eternal structure. Instead, it was a kind of stagnant water where all living beings couldn't rise up and their fates were fixed. Generation after generation, they were like puppets that couldn't do anything about it. However, the strongest fighting force in the heavenly court, those above the sky primordial realm, other than the 9 heavenly kings and the Master of the Sun and Moon, were the Emperor of Heaven's harem, which consisted of 4 concubines and 1 empress. Wu Dangkong was concubine Ming, and would have great power in the future, even controlling the overall situation of the imperial court. However, the most powerful one was not concubine Ming, nor was it the other concubines. It was the Emperor of Heaven's wife, the Empress. The Empress of Heaven was very mysterious. It was rumored that she and the Emperor of Heaven controlled the movement of the universe together. Even with Gu Chencha's current cultivation, the Emperor of Heaven and the Empress of Heaven and Earth were very vague. He couldn't find any clues at all. However, Gu Chensha wasn't in a hurry. As he succeeded step by step and his cultivation increased, all of these could be deduced one by one. As long as he became an Empyrean, his cultivation base would completely break away from the heavenly Tao and become his own entity. Then, the Emperor of Heaven would become clear. In just a month, I will be able to use the sacrifices of the 3,000 true gods to break through to the Tao Realm 36 transformation. At that time, I will be able to swallow primordial dragon sect and also subdue the sect Gene King. After devouring the power of the Dragon Gate of the Untainted Land, it would be easy for me to devour the Hong Meng Tree and the Heavenly Sacrifice Decree. If nothing goes wrong with my plan, I will be able to become a Heavenly Lord on the 36th year of the Heavenly Talisman and compete with the Heavenly Emperor. The Emperor of Heaven needs the cooperation of the people around to build the Heaven Court. I will wipe out the Master of the Sun and Moon, his concubines, and the 9 heavenly kings. Let's see how he will build the Heaven Court then. Gu Chensha knew that no matter how strong one was in the world, there were still traces to be found. When the Emperor of Heaven appeared, he had to follow certain rules. The world is unpredictable and it really dazzles one's eyes. Jing Fanqing suddenly said, "Minister, everything I did in the past was a huge mistake. As a result, I acknowledged a traitor as my father and wasted my great talents and time, causing my source of power to be snatched away and helping that traitor Jing Qiu. Now I have completely woken up and am willing to do things for the calming immortal department to reverse the heavens. Since the heavens gave me the Heavenly King identity but took it away, then I don't want it anymore. I want the heavens to understand that this was a mistake. Your cultivation is now comparable to the Emperor of Heaven. With just a small trick, you can make me cultivate once more. I swear that I will kill Jingqiu for you and take over Desolate Desert. I hope that you can give me this chance." While speaking, Jing Fanqing knelt on the ground and kowtowed. He was really sincere and there was no falsehood at all. Gu Chensha could see that Jing Fanqing had successively encountered many setbacks and had finally worn out his temper. From the depths of his heart, he had firmly decided to join the calming immortal department. From then on, he would be dead set on doing things, even willing to start as a minor official. Fa Wuxian lowered his head and his heart was filled with hesitation. As for the Emperor Wu, he didn't move and didn't express his opinion. He was now a normal person and all his cultivation was gone. He became the common people's marquis, but he didn't have the intention to follow you wholeheartedly. He was still waiting for a series of opportunities. "I can see that you are sincere," Gu Chensha said to Jing Fanqing. "Since that is the case, then I will do as you wish." While speaking, a streak of light buffed Jing Fanqing's body, causing him to stand up in the air. He turned into a streak of light and entered the little Hongmeng tree. "I will help this Jing Fanqing rebuild his foundation. In the future, he will work under Zhuge Ye." Gu Chensha said to Fa Wuxian and the Emperor Wu, "This person actually has great luck on him." Although he lost the Heavenly King source, his heart suddenly became clear. As a result, he obtained something even more precious than the Heavenly King source, which is freedom. This is because he let go of the shackles of fate. From now on, his fate will not be controlled by the Heavenly Tao and he will be free. This is the nature of humans. Humans are the spirit of all living things and their hearts are something even more brilliant than the Heavenly Tao. The Heavenly Tao also fears the human heart, so it planted all sorts of shackles in it to control it. If anyone can break these shackles, they will be able to obtain true freedom and not be a slave. Unfortunately, all of you are still immersed in the glory of the past and are reluctant to part with your old fate. How sad. Once all of you wake up, you can apply for it at any time. Gu Chernsha waved his hand and let Fa Wuxian and the Emperor Wu go back to being servants. The setup was complete. All that was left was to wait for the opportunity to reel in the net. At this very moment, in the depths of the vast starry sky, there was a blazing ball of fire at the highest point. This ball of fire was the amalgamation of many greater thousand realms, forming a greater thousand realm. This was the grand sun, the place of light in the heavenly realm. Even a heavenly longevity realm cultivator would not be able to enter this grand Sunday. As long as one was a few 100 million li from the edge of the grand sun, they would be refined. At this moment, in the center of the grand sun, a place that even heaven's primal cultivators could not reach, there was a person sitting cross-legged in cultivation. This was the Lord of the Sun and Moon, Gu Tiansha. Only the Lord of the Sun and Moon, Gu Tiansha, could enter the grand sun. Apart from him, even the heavenly kings were powerless. Dou Yu had experienced being dragged into the grand sun by the Lord of the Sun and Moon, Gu Tiansha. That was actually an illusion, a scene that Gu Chernsha had used a supreme technique to simulate. Of course, the real grand sun was more or less the same as the scene Gu Chernsha had simulated. In the depths of the grand sun, there were many treasures. Unfortunately, since ancient times, no one had been able to enter. The scale of the grand sun was equivalent to many ordinary great thousand realms combined. And at this moment, this huge grand sun had completely become the private property of the Lord of the Sun and Moon, Gu Tiansha. Moreover, no one could disturb Gu Tiansha's cultivation here. This was because he could not even get close to the grand sun, let alone enter the core of the grand sun. Thinking about it, the heavenly realm was almost endless and was called the Endless Continent. However, this grand sun could shine its light to every corner. Such power was unimaginable. If Gu Tiansha could use the full power of the celestial realm's great sun, then the current Gu Chernsha wouldn't be a match for him. Unfortunately, he couldn't use its full power, not even 1,000th of it. But he could use the treasures in the grand sun to expand his business. Rumble! In the depths of the grand sun, above Gu Tiansha's head, countless vortexes were spinning violently. They were all sacrificial power. Gu Tiansha had captured many people from the great thousand realms and even subdued many heavenly venerables. He had obtained the sacrificial power of many great thousand realms. It's still not enough. The sacrificial power is huge, but it's not pure enough. It lacks some crucial spirituality. While refining the sacrificial power, Gu Tiansha suddenly roared, and the sacrificial power collapsed. These people from the great thousand realms are inferior to the people of the divine continent. In the hearts of the divine continent's people, there is a potential that even the heavenly Tao fears. If I could refine this potential, why would I be afraid of Gu Chernsha? I could even directly suppress and kill the Emperor of Heaven. What a pity, what a pity! The control of the divine continent, the people of the divine continent worship Gu Chernsha, the tranquil immortal department, the Yonko and Gu Taxian. Gu Tiansha frowned. No, I have to quickly cultivate to the heavenly venerable realm and attack the divine continent to obtain the sacrificial power of the people. Otherwise, I will be surpassed by Gu Chernsha sooner or later. Gu Chernsha has grasped the sacrificial power of the divine continent's people and gradually refined immortal resources from them. Now Gu Tiansha was stuck at the most critical breakthrough point, a bottleneck. If Gu Tiansha broke through to the heavenly venerable realm, his cultivation base would skyrocket by tens of times, and he could use the power of the sun and moon more. He could start a war, attack the divine continent, occupy land, and plunder the people. Even Gu Chernsha would not be able to do anything. But right now, he could not break through. At this moment, suddenly, a circle of light appeared behind Gu Tiansha. This circle of light seemed to be the source of the sun, the essence of the sun, the original core of the great thousand realms. Other than that, within this circle of light, there was a deep cold white light. That was the original essence of the moon. These two great essences directly entered Gu Tiansha's body, causing Gu Tiansha to suddenly break through some kind of supreme bottleneck and directly become an anomaly. Then, waves of heavenly venerable aura rose from his body. What? The most fundamental core of the sun and moon actually seeped into my body? Gu Tiansha himself did not expect this. Chapter 845. My own power hasn't awakened? That is my identity? Are there any new changes? Even if the primordial mystical sand was a fool, it would understand. Think about it. Gu Taxian suddenly promoted Wu Dangkong to regent, and the decree fell into her hands. Now I know her identity. She is actually the future emperor of heaven's bright concubine. She has a high position and power. And you are the crown prince. I am still calculating what kind of role you will play in the future heavenly court. Or rather, you will be another overlord. Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tiansha smiled. I want you to awaken your source and fight against the calming fairy department. Understood. Gu Xiansha still had many doubts on his face. I have a question. Gu Chernsha is powerful and has almost all the advantages. He shouldn't be an ordinary person. What kind of reincarnation is he? I am also calculating this. Gu Tiansha said, Gu Chernsha is indeed a unique person. He is definitely not the Emperor of Heaven, but if he continues to develop, he will definitely become a celestial lord. At that time, it is not impossible for him to fight against the Emperor of Heaven. If he also becomes a celestial lord, I will definitely not be his match. I admit this, but I can definitely suppress him now. Most importantly, he absorbed 1/10 of my source. If I didn't absorb it, I would have an advantage over him, but now I am a bit weaker. But if I devour the Emperor of Heaven, he will definitely not be my match. My lord will definitely be invincible. Gu Xiansha lowered his head and was thinking about what to do. Right now, he was forced into a desperate situation. He had to fight Gu Chernsha and the calming fairy department to the end. He knew that once he took this step, there was no turning back. Right now, he was the crown prince. As long as he kept a low profile, he could enjoy wealth and cultivate in peace. But if he worked with Gu Tiansha to kill the general, the calming fairy department would definitely retaliate. At that time, whether or not he could survive the counterattack was unknown. He did not believe that Gu Tiansha would risk his life to protect him. But if he were to refuse now, then he would probably immediately suffer Gu Tiansha's vicious attacks. Choosing the lesser of two evils, he could only go against the calm celestial department. Very good. I've taught these 10 Empyreans a set of formations. When they join forces, their power is extremely great. What I need to do now is to refine their 10 greater thousand worlds, shrink them, and bring them to the heaven realm to refine an invincible magic treasure. Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tiansha said, I hope to see your results after this matter is completed. Although Gu Tiansha had become an Empyrean, he knew that if he were to fight to the death with Gu Chernsha, he would still have many things to worry about. If he relied on his own strength, he was confident that he could suppress Gu Chernsha. But now Gu Chernsha had the divine land gourd, which contained 20 peerless treasures. In addition to the immortal slaying god punishing gourd and other treasures, it was unknown who would emerge victorious. Therefore, Gu Tiansha wanted to refine a supreme treasure that could restrain the divine land gourd, allowing him to easily kill Gu Chernsha and refine him. Your subordinate will definitely complete the task and not fail you. Crown Prince Gu Tiansha said loudly. That would be for the best. Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tiansha flickered into motion and then vanished from the imperial palace. However, as soon as he left, he looked into the depths of the harem and could sense a strange aura. He was prepared to investigate further, but then decided against it. He didn't want to cause any unnecessary complications at the moment. In the depths of the harem, many concubines of the heavenly talisman Great Emperor were under the guidance of Peacock, forming the Heavenly Mother formation. The Heavenly Mother formation slowly showed its strength. The dozens of concubines in the harem, along with the Peacock, kept channeling their power into the formation. Every concubine's cultivation base was improving by leaps and bounds, almost at a tremendous pace. Especially in the deepest part of the formation, a Heavenly Mother was gradually born. The Heavenly Mother was something similar to the General of all life, the King of all life, but the aura on her body was really like that of the Mother of Heavenly Tao. There was a strange substance wriggling within it. So all of a sudden, the Peacock stopped and spoke to the concubines. "Ladies and gentlemen, the Heavenly Mother has condensed into a physical form, but it's a pity that it's still missing something crucial. If the Heavenly Mother manifests with this formation, even if we can't suppress the world, we can still protect ourselves. No matter what kind of attacks we face, with the protection of the Heavenly Mother, we can rest easy." What other substances are we lacking? I have already cultivated to the 31st transformation of the Tao realm, the void creation realm. I can use chaotic essence energy to enter my own world and give birth to all sorts of treasures and even herbs, but it is useless against the Heavenly Mother. Concubine Shuang said. Of course, the substances that are extracted from chaos are below the Heavenly Tao, so even if we extract chaos to the extreme, it will just be a Xiantian treasure in the world. It is impossible to form the Heavenly Mother. The substance that the Heavenly Mother needs is extracted from the hearts of people. Moreover, it has to be extracted from the worship power of the people of the God Prefecture. That is the true undying substance and something that even the Heavenly Tao fears. Peacock exclaimed. Humans are the spirits of all living beings, and the people of the God Prefecture are the spirits of all spirit. Dharma Empress said, "We need the worship in people's hearts to extract the essence of the Mother of Heaven and Earth and merge it. Doesn't that mean that we have to work with the calming celestial department? Now they have full control of the worship power. That's only natural. However, we have to send someone over to negotiate in hopes of obtaining the immense power of the calming immortal department's sacrificial offerings. The sacrificial offerings needed to successfully condense the Heavenly Mother are definitely not ordinary. Even if the calming immortal department expends all the sacrificial offerings that they have accumulated over the years, they might not be able to condense it. I'm afraid that the calming immortal department will not agree to this. But we need the power of these sacrifices. Which one of you can convince that Gu Chensha? Gu Chensha is in charge of the calming celestial department. Peacock said. That will be a little difficult. Concubine Lei had a troubled expression on her face. The worship power is really useful to the calming celestial department. I don't think that Gu Chensha will work with us, unless we try to seize power, compete with the calming celestial department and snatch the worship power from all over the world. But that is even more difficult. To form the most crucial core of the Heavenly Mother formation, we need the worship power of all over the world. Without a doubt, if we don't form it, what we have done before will be useless. Peacock said, Our secret technique is how to extract the Mother of Heaven and Earth from people's hearts. This is something that Gu Chensha can't comprehend, but was taught to us by His Majesty. I believe that Gu Chensha will be very interested in this. If he can obtain the method to extract the Mother of Heaven and Earth, his cultivation will go up another level. Actually, the calming celestial department is currently in a treasure mountain. We can't obtain any treasures, but the worship of the God Prefecture is a treasure. The worship power of the people in the world is so strong. If we can obtain the best refinement, the strength of the calming celestial department will increase by 100 times. Are we going to use the core secret of the Heavenly Mother formation to trade with Gu Chensha? Concubine Shuang, Ning Qing Shuang frowned. Actually, we are not very clear about how to extract the worship power because we are not strong enough. Peacock, only you have cultivated to the celestial lord realm. Moreover, if Gu Chensha obtains the method to extract the mother of heaven and earth, his strength will increase by leaps and bounds. We will not be able to compete with him at all, and the struggle for the imperial court will be in a losing process. That's right. At that moment, a voice traveled into the harem. Hearing this voice, Ning Qingxuang's body trembled violently. She looked towards the door. At this moment, a person had appeared at the door. It was a young man who gave off the feeling of being high and mighty like the mountains and seas. Moreover, above his head seemed to be the weight of a great thousand world, and he seemed to have the deepest connection with the endless world. Xian Xian. Concubine Shuang and Ning Qingxuang saw the person clearly. It was Xian Xian, who had been resurrected from the Black Heaven-Earth Gate. Xian Xian was the reincarnation of the Endless Heart. Now, he had become the ruler of the Eastern Wilderness and had obtained the recognition of the heart of the Eastern Wilderness. As such, not only was his strength extremely tyrannical, but he had also managed to rope in Jingqiu, Guhua, and the others. Now, he walked into the harem with his head held high, and there were actually 4 people following behind him. One of them was Jingqiu, another was Guhua, and the other 2 were Gu Tanjian and Gu Changjian, the reincarnations of the Endless Sword and the Endless Saber. But at this moment, there was an additional aura on Gu Changjian's body. On Gu Changjian's body, there was a vast universe that was incomparably vast, and there was a wild aura and characteristics in the barbarism. This was the Wildland Heart. Gu Changjian still obtained the recognition of the Wildland Heart, and became the ruler of Wildland. Now all the rulers of the 4 wilderness had gathered. The ruler of the Eastern Wilderness, Xian Xian. The ruler of the Wildland, Gu Changjian. The ruler of the desert, Jingqiu. The ruler of the desolate ocean, Gu Hua. In the future, the 4 wilderness would be in existence second only to the heavenly court. The rulers of the 4 wilderness were the kings of the vassal states, similar to the rulers of the immortal realm, the monster realm, the demon realm, and the god realm. At this moment, all the rulers of the 4 wilderness had gathered. 2 of them were not only the rulers of the 4 wilderness, but also the reincarnations of the innocuous heavenly king and the calamity heavenly king. When they activated the heart of the 4 wilderness, they possessed boundless power. Xian Xian, what are you doing here? This is not a place you should be. The peacock let out a long cry, formation. Instantly, a mysterious formation coalesced and protected the group. Is this the formation of Heavenly Mother? Something that belongs to Gu Taxian? Xian Xian looked at the formation with a disdainful expression. Gu Taxian gained fame through deceiving the world, and he will definitely turn into ashes in the future. And you, Ning Qingxuang, you were my fiancée back then, but you were a promiscuous woman who hooked up with Gu Taxian. Tell me, how are we going to settle this debt today? Chapter 846. My own power hasn't awakened? That is my identity? Are there any new changes? Even if the primordial mystical sand was a fool, it would understand. Think about it. Gu Taxian suddenly promoted Wu Dankong to regent, and the decree fell into her hands. Now I know her identity. She is actually the future emperor of heaven's bright concubine. She has a high position and power. And you are the crown prince. I am still calculating what kind of role you will play in the future heavenly court. Or rather, you will be another overlord. Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tiansha smiled. I want you to activate your source and fight against the Celestial Calmness Department. Understood. Gu Xiansha still had many doubts on his face. I have a question. That Gu Chunsha is so powerful and has almost all the advantages. He shouldn't be an ordinary person. What kind of reincarnation is he? I am also calculating this. Gu Tiansha said, Gu Chunsha is indeed a unique person. He is definitely not the Emperor of Heaven, but if he continues to develop, he will definitely become a celestial lord. At that time, it is not impossible to fight against the Emperor of Heaven. If he also becomes a celestial lord, I will definitely not be his match. I admit that, but I can definitely suppress him now. Most importantly, he absorbed 1/10 of my source. If I didn't, I would have an advantage over him, but now I am a bit weaker. But if I devour the Emperor of Heaven, he will definitely not be my match. My lord will definitely be invincible. Gu Xiansha lowered his head and was thinking about what to do. Right now, he was forced into a desperate situation. He had to fight Gu Chunsha and the Celestial Calmness Department to the end. He knew that once he took this step, there was no turning back. Right now, he was the Crown Prince. As long as he kept a low profile, he could enjoy wealth and cultivate in peace. But if he worked with Gu Tiansha to kill the general, the Celestial Calmness Department would definitely retaliate. At that time, whether or not he could survive the counterattack was unknown. He did not believe that Gu Tiansha would risk his life to protect him. But if he were to refuse now, then he would probably immediately suffer Gu Tiansha's vicious attacks. Choosing the lesser of two evils, he could only go against the calm celestial department. Very good. I've taught these 10 Empyreans a set of formations. When they join forces, their power is extremely great. What I need to do now is to refine their 10 greater thousand worlds, shrink them, and bring them to the heaven realm to refine an invincible magic treasure. Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tiansha said, I hope to see your results after this matter is completed. Although Gu Tiansha had become an Empyrean, he knew that if he were to fight to the death with Gu Chunsha, he would still have many things to worry about. If he relied on his own strength, he was confident that he could suppress Gu Chunsha. But now Gu Chunsha had the divine land gourd, which contained 20 peerless treasures. In addition to the immortal slaying god Punisher gourd and other treasures, it was unknown who would emerge victorious. Therefore, Gu Tiansha wanted to refine a supreme treasure that could restrain the divine land gourd, allowing him to easily kill Gu Chunsha and refine him. Your subordinate will definitely complete the task and not fail you. Crown Prince Gu Tiansha said loudly. That would be for the best. Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tiansha flickered into motion and then vanished from the imperial palace. However, as soon as he left, he looked into the depths of the harem and could sense a strange aura. He was prepared to investigate further, but then decided against it. He didn't want to cause any unnecessary complications at the moment. In the depths of the harem, many concubines of the heavenly talisman Great Emperor were under the guidance of Peacock, forming the Heavenly Mother Formation. The Heavenly Mother Formation slowly showed its strength. The dozens of concubines in the harem, along with the peacock, kept channeling their power into the formation. Every concubine's cultivation base was improving by leaps and bounds, almost at a tremendous pace. Especially in the deepest part of the formation, a Heavenly Mother was gradually born. The Heavenly Mother was something similar to the General of all life, the King of all life, but the aura on her body was really like that of the Mother of Heavenly Tao. There was a strange substance wriggling within it. So, all of a sudden, the peacock stopped and spoke to the concubines. Ladies and gentlemen, the Heavenly Mother has condensed into a physical form, but it's a pity that it's still missing something crucial. If the Heavenly Mother manifests with this formation, even if we can't suppress the world, we can still protect ourselves. No matter what kind of attacks we face, with the protection of the Heavenly Mother, we can rest easy. What other substances are we lacking? I have already cultivated to the 31st transformation of the Tao realm, the Void Creation realm. I can use chaotic energy to enter my own world and give birth to all sorts of treasures and even herbs, but it is useless against the Heavenly Mother. Concubine Shuang said. Of course, the substances that are refined from chaos are below the heavenly Tao, so even if we refine chaos to the extreme, it will just be a sciention treasure in the world. It is impossible to form the Heavenly Mother. The substance that the Heavenly Mother needs is extracted from the hearts of people. Moreover, it has to be extracted from the worship power of the people. That is the true undying substance and something that even the Heavenly Tao fears. Peacock exclaimed. Humans are the spirit of all beings, and the people of the divine prefecture are the spirits of all spirits. The Dharma Empress said, we need the worship in people's hearts to extract the essence of the Mother of Heaven and Earth and merge it. Does that mean that we have to work with the calming celestial department? Now they have full control of the worship power. That's only natural. However, we have to send someone over to negotiate in hopes of obtaining the immense power of the calming immortal department's sacrificial offerings. The sacrificial offerings needed to successfully condense the Heavenly Mother are definitely not ordinary. Even if the calming immortal department expends all the sacrificial offerings that they have accumulated over the years, they might not be able to condense it. I'm afraid that the calming immortal department will not agree to this. But we need the power of these sacrifices. Which one of you can convince that Gu Chensha? Gu Chensha is in charge of the calming celestial department. Peacock said. That will be a little difficult. Concubine Lei had a troubled expression on her face. The worship power is really useful to the calming celestial department. I don't think that Gu Chensha will work with us, unless we try to seize power? Compete with the calming celestial department and snatch the worship power from all over the world. But that is much more difficult. To form the most crucial core of the Heavenly Mother formation, we need the worship power of all over the world. Without a doubt, if we don't form it, what we have done before will be useless. Peacock said, our secret technique is how to extract the Mother of Heaven and Earth from people's hearts. This is something that Gu Chensha can't comprehend, but was taught to us by His Majesty. I believe that Gu Chensha will be very interested in this. If he can obtain the method to extract the Mother of Heaven and Earth, his cultivation will go up another level. Actually, the calming celestial department is currently in a treasure mountain. We can't obtain any treasures, but the worship power of the divine prefecture is a treasure. The worship power of the people in the world is so strong. If we can obtain the best refinement, the strength of the calming celestial department will increase by 100 times. Are we going to use the core secret of the Heavenly Mother formation to trade with Gu Chensha? Concubine Shuang, Ningqing Shuang, frowned. Actually, we are not very clear about how to extract the worship power because we are not strong enough. Peacock, only you have cultivated to the Celestial Lord level. Also, if Gu Chensha obtains the method to extract the Mother of Heaven and Earth, his strength will increase by leaps and bounds. We will not be able to resist him at all, and the struggle for the imperial court will be in the process of defeat. That's right. At this moment, a voice was transmitted into the harem. Hearing this voice, Ningqing Shuang's body trembled violently. She looked towards the door. At this moment, a person had appeared at the door. It was a young man who gave off the feeling of being high and mighty like the mountains and seas. Moreover, above his head seemed to be the weight of a great thousand world, and he seemed to have the deepest connection with the endless world. Xian Xian. Concubine Shuang and Ningqing Shuang saw the person clearly. It was Xian Xian, who had been resurrected from the Black Heaven and Earth Gate. Xian Xian was the reincarnation of the Endless Heart, and now he had become the master of the Eastern Wilderness, receiving the recognition of the heart of the Eastern Wilderness. As such, not only did he become incredibly powerful, but he also had many allies, winning over Jing Qiu, Gu Hua, and the others. Now, he walked into the harem with his head held high and chest puffed out. Behind him were 4 people. One was Jing Qiu, one was Gu Hua, and the other 2 were Gu Tanjian and Gu Changjian, the reincarnations of the Endless Sword and Endless Blade. However, at this moment, there was something else about Gu Changjian's body. Gu Changjian's body was incredibly vast, and there was a wild aura and characteristics within it. This was the Wildland's heart. Gu Changjian had received the recognition of the Wildland's heart, becoming the master of the Wildlands. Now, all the masters of the 4 wilderness had gathered. The master of the eastern wilderness, Xian Xian. The master of the Wildlands, Gu Changjian. The master of the desert, Jing Qiu. The master of the ocean desolate, Gu Hua. In the future, the 4 wilderness would be second only to the heavenly court. The masters of the 4 wilderness were the kings of the vassal states, similar to the masters of the immortal world, the Yao world, the devil world, and the god world. At this moment, the masters of the 4 wilderness had gathered. 2 of them were not only the masters of the 4 wilderness, but also the reincarnations of the invincible Heavenly King and the Calamity Heavenly King. When they activated the heart of the 4 wilderness, they possessed boundless power. Xian Xian, what are you doing here? This isn't a place you should be. The peacock let out a long cry. Formation. Instantly, a mysterious formation coalesced and protected the group. Chapter 847. Xian Xian, it seems that you didn't die completely last time since you dared to come here. Concubine Shuang, Ningqing Shuang, looked at Xian Xian in disdain. Back then, you were already a wretched person. How could you be compared to a hero like the Emperor? In my eyes, the Emperor is a divine dragon from the 9 heavens, and you are just a small loach in the mud. How could you be compared? I, Ningqing Shuang, have long seen that you will end up miserable. Today, I just want to die again. Bitch. Xian Xian was enraged. You are still so wretched and don't have any self-respect. Since that is the case, I can't save you. Later, I will break your formation, capture you, destroy your cultivation, and make you immortal. Then, I will send you to the lowest brothel, where you will be humiliated day and night. I will announce to the world that this is the concubine of that bastard Gu Taxian. Let's see if you can still be so stubborn then. And all of you, I will destroy all of you. As long as it is Gu Taxian's woman, I will make your life a living hell. Xian Xian was really angry. He was born and resurrected by the Lord of the Sun and Moon, Gu Tiansha. His only goal was revenge on Gu Taxian. Gu Changjian, Gu Tanjian, you two are making trouble too? Concubine Xian and Concubine Heng said. Concubine Xian was the crown prince, Gu Xuansha's mother, and Gu Changjian was Gu Xuansha's son. Concubine Xian was Gu Changjian's grandmother, and they were related by blood. However, Concubine Xian's cultivation was very high. During the process of condensing the mother formation, she had also stepped into the god realm. Therefore, she still looked like a young girl. This was nothing for cultivators. Even after stepping into the Tao realm, they could still use spiritual energy to cleanse their bodies and retain their youthful look. Concubine Heng was the crown prince, Gu Hengsha's mother, and also Gu Tanjian's grandmother. When the two saw Gu Changjian and Gu Tanjian come in, they couldn't help but scold them. Come on. Gu Tanjian waved his hand. I am the Sword of Infinity, the #1 weapon of the Emperor of Heaven, one of the 36 treasures of the Heaven realm, and the strongest weapon in the Emperor of Heaven's arsenal. My mission in this world is to assist the heavenly Daos, to assist the Emperor of Heaven, to fight against the existence that defies the heavenly Daos. Now I understand my mission, but in the end there is still some fate between us. Concubine Heng, if you betray me immediately, I can protect you from Xian Xian. Let me tell you, if we join forces and suppress the four wilds together, your so-called Heavenly Mother formation won't be able to stop us. So, quickly surrender. This is the right thing to do. Gu Changjian, what about you? Xian Fei asked. Surrender or die. Gu Changjian was even more direct. He then said to Peacock, Peacock, you are Li Wanlong's daughter. You and Li Wanlong both had a fortuitous encounter and broke through to become celestial venerables. You want to control the entire demon race and become the true ruler of all demons. But let me tell you, this is all in vain. You are the ruler of all demons. I am willing to sit in this position and gain destiny. But you and Gu Taxian are too deeply involved. It is not too late to stop now. If you continue to be stubborn, you will die without a doubt. Not bad. Peacock didn't look the least bit afraid. You joined forces so quickly and prepared to conquer the world. Do you think you are invincible because you obtained the power of the four wilds? You are not even afraid of the calming immortal department? We have no cooperation with the calming immortal department, but this is the imperial palace, where the face of the imperial court is. Do you really think the calming immortal department will ignore this? The calming immortal department? I want to fight with them and see how strong that Gu Chensha really is. Jing Qiu and Gu Hua sneered. If we work together, we will also form a formation. With the four wastelands working together, we can even lift up the divine prefecture. In the future, the four wastelands will be the four cornerstones of the divine prefecture. With the four wastelands, the divine prefecture can become the celestial court. You know this. This time, the four wilds have gathered, and our cultivation has reached great heights. We will use our power to fight against the calming immortal department and cause the world to change. That is the greatest merit. My guess is that the calming immortal department will not fight us and give up on you for the sake of stability. So, if the calming immortal department doesn't help, you will definitely eat us. Peacock didn't look afraid at all. Instead, she suddenly became relaxed. The reason why you suddenly came out is because you want to trigger a great tribulation and incite the flames of war. Behind you, there must be someone stronger guiding you, right? The 36th year of the heavenly talisman is almost up. In less than a month, some great tribulation will break out. If there is no tribulation, the calming immortal department will be as stable as a mountain, and Gu Chensha will be able to become a heavenly lord easily. I'm afraid the situation will become more and more difficult to turn around. You, the masters of the four wilds, will be the vanguard. It is true that the danger is great, but the merit of the heavenly Tao will not be small. Xian Xian, you are the leader. Xian Xian, the hatred between you and the Emperor is as deep as the sea, so there is no possibility of compromise. Therefore, you can only seek wealth in danger. But Jing Qiu, Gu Hua, Gu Changjian, you still have a chance to compromise with the calming immortal department. Don't be dragged down by Xian Xian. You should know that the heavenly Tao and the Emperor have not decided the winner yet, and the legendary Emperor Heaven has not been born yet. Gu Chensha's strength and means will change greatly in the future. Perhaps, he will be able to ascend to the throne of the Emperor Heaven. When that time comes, how will you deal with yourself? No matter how glib your tongue is, you can't escape today. We will carry out the predestined destiny and start the war to stop the calming immortal department's heaven-defying actions. In the future, we will be the greatest heroes. You are Gu Taxian's women. How dare you dream of becoming the mother of the world? You are simply seeking death. Xian Xian had lost his patience. Ningqing Shuang, I will give you one more chance. Kneel down and beg for mercy. If you beg for my forgiveness, you may not die. Xian Xian, have you lost your mind? Ningqing Shuang looked at Xian Xian, as if she was looking at an idiot. That's true. You have given your boundless heart to others. Naturally, you have lost your mind and gone mad. If I were you, I would not be able to protect my own heart and would be forced to form an alliance. If I were you, I would have committed suicide in shame for people like the Dharma Saint and the 3 Holy Masters. Why are you still boasting shamelessly here today? Damn it! Since you want to die, I won't say anything more to you. Xian Xian was completely enraged. Kill. Move of the 4 wildernesses. In the blink of an eye, he attacked. His attack was of great significance. In the imperial palace, he attacked Gu Taxian's concubine. This was the first step to provoking a calamity. Furthermore, he did not do it sneakily or on a small scale. He gathered the power of the 4 wildernesses and the origin of the heavenly king to suppress, destroy the imperial palace, and capture the concubine. He wanted the whole world to know that the Celestial Tranquility Department could no longer suppress the situation, and that even the imperial palace was in chaos. Once the hearts of the people in the world were scattered, the wild dragons and snakes that had been suppressed by the Celestial Tranquility Department to the point where they couldn't move at all, including the chaotic demon stars, would all take advantage of the situation to rise up. In the blink of an eye, the world would fall apart and everyone would go their own way. Over the years, the Celestial Tranquility Department had used iron-fisted methods to keep the Divine Prefecture in peace. The number of ambitious people had decreased, but it was impossible to truly suppress all of them. Ever since the Heavenly Talisman, the Divine Prefecture had experienced a surge of good fortune. Countless demon stars had descended into the world, and countless people had made incredible progress. There were Tao realm experts everywhere, as well as gold cores and magical power. There were even quite a few who had reached the godly level. Now that they were stronger, they were no longer satisfied with being bound by the imperial court. For example, the young man who had been reincarnated from the scholarly star had reached the godly level, and had no desire to work for the Celestial Tranquility Department. Instead, he had greater ambitions and wanted to achieve even greater things. Because the Celestial Tranquility Department was so powerful that it could suppress everything in the world, the ambitious people didn't dare to do anything. They simply followed the rules and regulations of the law. However, if a calamity appeared, ambitious people would spring up like bamboo after a spring rain. Because of that, the current situation lacked an opportunity, a fierce warrior who dared to take the lead in the world. Xian Xian wanted to be that type of warrior. Even if he didn't succeed, he would be the one to initiate the calamity, and would reap huge rewards in the future. Long ago, Jing Qiu had also become a fierce warrior. However, he had been too early, and had been suppressed by the Lord of 7 Stars, Zhuge. However, he had already accumulated a great deal of good karma. Because of that good karma, and his service to the Tao of Heaven, he had been able to wrest away the essence of Heavenly King Innocuous Tribulation from Jing Fanxing, and had even taken the position of Lord of the Desert Desolation. Because of that, he was very much in favor of initiating the calamity, and he and Xian Xian hit it off. As for Gu Hua, he was the reincarnation of the Heavenly King of Calamities. His arrival was a calamity. It was only natural that he would initiate the calamity. If Gu Changjian and Gu Tanjian joined forces with the lords of the Eastern Wastelands, Desert Desolation, and Sea Desolation, they would be able to rapidly increase their strength to an inconceivable level. That was why the 4 of them could join forces and unleash the power of the 4 Wastelands. That wasn't even mentioning the fact that they were backed by mysterious experts, most likely powerful heavenly kings who hadn't even been born yet. I wasn't originally the innocuous tribulation, but now I have the essence of a heavenly king. That's because I was the first to rebel against Yonko. Even though I was suppressed, I was rewarded with a great deal of good karma. Because of that good karma, I was able to acquire the essence of a heavenly king without any sins. The Tao of Heaven recognized my value, and subconsciously abolished the useless Jing Fanxing, allowing me to take over. When Jing Qiu saw Xian Xian making his move, he let out a booming voice. I used the good karma from my first rebellion to acquire the essence of a heavenly king. Now that we're initiating the greatest calamity in history, I wonder what level of good karma we'll be able to reach? His words were meant for Gu Changjian and Gu Tanjian. He used himself as an example to illustrate the importance and benefits of initiating a calamity. Kill. Suppress it. At that moment, Gu Tanjian, Gu Changjian, and the heavenly king of calamities, Gu Hua, all made their moves. They knew that once they made their move, the world would usher in a new era. The calamity had already begun before they made their moves. Chapter 848. 1 second small say section net. Org, a wonderful pop-up window free reading. Chapter 845. Upgrade again. Xian Xian was the first to initiate the tribulation. This was truly seeking riches in the midst of danger. However, his hatred towards Gu Tianxian, Yong Chao, and the entire Gu family was so deep that it could not be washed away. And Jing Qiu was even more daring than him. He was born to take risk. The first time could be said to have won, and now the second time was another big gamble. If he won the gamble this time, then he would truly be able to enjoy the great position of a supreme being in the future. He would be invincible, and he would receive the recognition of the heavenly Tao. Furthermore, if they succeeded, they would be able to capture the concubines of the heavenly talisman emperor and obtain the heavenly mother formation. They would be able to extract the motherly energy from the formation and obtain great benefit. Under such circumstances, these people had no choice but to gamble. The ones present were 5 great experts. The power of the 4 desolates condensed into a grand formation that fiercely pressed down. In an instant, it wrapped around the heavenly mother formation and began to crush it. Rumble! The entire imperial harem seemed to shatter in an instant. The imperial palace was a floating city that floated in the sky, surrounded by white clouds. It was an enormous magical treasure, filled with layers of warding magic. The Heavenly Designer Institute had expended a great deal of blood, sweat, and tears to create it, and it was a symbol of the majesty of Yanko. In the eyes of mortals, this palace was equivalent to a city in the sky. However, in the eyes of experts, aside from its grandeur, the restrictive spells were also very ordinary. It was far inferior to the Great Wall of Stone. When the floating city was constructed, the heavenly talisman Great Emperor had already disappeared. Even more frightening was that this floating city was located in the wildlands, and the heart of the wildlands was controlled by Gu Changjian. Gu Changjian was the ruler of the wildlands. As such, when Gu Changjian unleashed the power of the wildlands, all of the power of the wildlands gathered on his body. He stood up and unleashed a domineering punch. In the unseen world, he seemed to have become the incarnation of the wildlands king. With a single strike, everything under the heavens was reduced to dust. As of then, Gu Changjian was the reincarnation of the infinite blade. He had also obtained the support from the savage power, and after training arduously with the other lords of Arid Triad, he had also obtained the support of some mysterious power. His strength had already reached a state where he could defeat the antiques in Heaven Longevity Realm. Right then, with that punch, it would not be difficult for him to kill Heaven Longevity Realm. Rumble! Countless strange phenomena appeared between heaven and earth. In that instant, the Heavenly Mother formation was on the verge of collapsing. The Heavenly Mother phantom image that had just been condensed was immediately shattered. The Heavenly Mother array formation was actually an empty shell. It lacked the mother nature of heaven and earth. Without it, the Heavenly Mother array formation would not be able to unleash 1/1000th of its power. Naturally, it would not be a match for these people. All of you die obediently. Ning Qing Shuang, especially you. Right now, it'll be difficult for you to die even if you want to. I won't let you die so easily. When Xian Xin saw that his resentment was about to be vented, he felt extremely comfortable. Waves of power surged out of his body, and his attacks on the Heavenly Mother Array formation became 30% stronger. Cough. At that moment, all the concubines in the Heavenly Mother Array coughed up a mouthful of blood, including the Dharma Empress. Even if the peacock was a celestial paragon, under the suppression of the 5 great elites, he was as weak as an ant. He could not even withstand a single blow. Gu Changjian, Gu Tanjian, you really are treacherous. How dare you attack us? Do you really want to kill us? Concubine Xian and concubine Heng roared in anger. Once we kill you, we can sever all ties with Gu Taxian. Gu Tanjian and Gu Changjian were not moved at all. We are deeply influenced by the imperial family, and we might face some obstacles in the future. But if we kill you now, we can completely sever all ties with them. The two of them were incredibly cold and merciless. They wanted to destroy everything. Their Infinity Blade and Infinity Sword were unleashed to the extreme. Everyone, at a time like this, we can only fight. Peacock knew that they were in a dire situation, and they might be killed very soon. At that moment, a huge wave of sacrificial power broke through the air and entered the Heavenly Mother Array formation. The Heavenly Mother, which had already turned into smoke, suddenly reformed into a solid form. This form was very clear, and as the Heavenly Mother Array formation operated, it actually started to refine this sacrificial power. As it was being refined, the strongest divine power was born. This divine power was the mother nature of heaven and earth that could not be refined from the primordial chaos. It was also the mother of chaos. It was the true immortal substance that was refined from the hearts of the Chinese people. Only natural treasures could be refined from the primordial chaos, but some things that surpassed heaven and earth could not be refined. With the help of the sacrificial power, the Heavenly Mother Array gave birth to the mother nature of heaven and earth. Instantly, the array's defense was increased by 1,000 times. A Heavenly Mother appeared in the array. This Heavenly Mother had billions of heads, billions of arms, and billions of eyes. Each head, arm, and eye was calculating the invincible, infinite, boundless, and supreme divine power. The sacrificial power kept surging into the concubines' bodies. Immediately, their injuries were all healed. Moreover, their cultivation base improved tremendously. The mother nature of heaven and earth was something that even the heavenly Tao could not create. The most exquisite substance that was refined from the human heart was now born. Just like that, the Heavenly Mother's body appeared and withstood the attack. The power of the Four-Baron could not enter the Heavenly Mother Array formation for now. Department of Tranquility, Gu Chensha, you little B****, you really made your move. But I knew you would make your move. This Heavenly Mother Array formation requires extremely strong sacrificial power. Your Department of Tranquility has been accumulating power for so many years, but you only have a little bit of it. It is not enough for this array. Once the sacrificial power is used up, you will not be able to use a lot of your powers. When that time comes, it will be your death. I will skin you alive. Xian Xian laughed crazily again. The power of the eastern wastelands on his body became even stronger. Activate. The moment he activated it, a huge source surged in the depths of the eastern wastelands. All the immortal sects in the eastern wastelands, whether they were deity realm experts or ordinary martial artists, received the call of the eastern wastelands. That was to unite and attack the Yonko, to attack the divine prefecture. At this time, Jing Qiu, Gu Hua, and Gu Changjian also activated the power of the three barons. This Jing Qiu, Xian Xian, and the others are so daring. Gu Chensha, who was in Xin Prefecture City, had already seen everything that was happening in the palace in the depths of the wildlands. Actually, He knew that the concubines were forming the Heavenly Mother Array formation, but he didn't care. This might be an opportunity left behind by the Heavenly Talisman Emperor. Gu Chunxia had also secretly studied this Heavenly Mother formation. Just now, when Xian Xin and the others were attacking recklessly, he had injected the power of worship into the formation and fought against them, saving many of the concubines. This was a necessary measure. If something happened to the palace, the people would think that the Communist division couldn't control the situation, and it would lead to the decline of the nation's fortune. He naturally wouldn't allow such a thing to happen. Whoosh! His body arrived at the base of the Communist division, in the depths of the little Hongmeng tree. Chunxia, the tribulations have begun. Xian Xin is leading the way, using the power of the four barons to destroy the palace. If we fight against these five, the other powers will take advantage of the situation and rise. We are not optimistic. Lu Baiwa said, these five are going all out. They are the vanguard of the rebellion, but the most terrifying thing is that they probably have powerful existences behind them. Other than that, the Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tianxia is also secretly preparing something. The Primal Chaos Heavenly King, Grand Overarching Heavenly King, East Flower Heavenly King, Wisdom Heavenly King, and Jin Men Heavenly King will immediately rebel. Other than that, the most powerful one is the Emperor of Heaven. The Heavenly Talisman Emperor is about to arrive in 36 years. If he appears, it will be hard for us to control the situation. The Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tianxia is the strongest enemy now. Before the Emperor of Heaven appears, he is the strongest. He was the strongest. His strength had already cultivated to the heavenly venerate level. Originally, it would have been tough for him to become a celestial venerable, but because he obtained some mysterious power, there is a mastermind supporting him. I suspect that the mastermind is the Emperor of Heaven. The Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tianxia also sensed it, which was why he didn't attack right away. Gu Chunxia had many plans. The only one he was afraid of was the Emperor of Heaven. Everything else was just fleeting clouds. Even if the current Gu Tianxia became a celestial venerable, he would at most be a temporary threat. Actually, Gu Tianxia didn't know that Gu Chunxia had already controlled Jin Men Heavenly King and the 3,000 true gods in the dark. The huge sacrificial power was used by Gu Chunxia, causing Gu Chenxia's cultivation to exceed the Lord of the Sun Moon Gu Tianxia's calculations. While Gu Chunxia was speaking, a surge of power surged and his realm rose once more. He reached the Tao realm 36 transformations, the embodiment transformation realm. This was because he had suddenly refined all the sacrificial power into the Mother of Heaven and Earth. After comprehending the method to refine the Mother of Heaven and Earth, Gu Chunxia extracted the Mother of Heaven and Earth from the sacrificial power of the 3,000 true gods and merged it into his body. With a slight change, he reached the embodiment transformation realm. He was just a step away from celestial venerable realm. 1. The Mother of Heaven and Earth merged into his body, causing all the skills in his body to be condensed together. This was the power of the Mother of Heaven and Earth. The Mother of Heaven and Earth was a magical substance that was on the same level as the heavenly Tao. The 3,000 true gods were the thrones of the true gods formed by many emperors using the faith of the people of the divine land. Then, these true gods gathered faith on the divine land for thousands of years and formed their own divine kingdoms. Firstly, the sacrificial power of these true gods contained the faith of the people of the God-land. This was why Jin Men Heavenly King needed the sacrificial power of these true gods right away to raise his status. Not only that, but his cultivation would also increase. But now, it was all in the hands of Jingxian Si and Gu Chunxia. The calamity has been brought forward, but I am not unprepared. I am prepared for a long battle. Our peaceful days are over. Gu Chunxia was prepared to use his killing move. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.